Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. Don't forget, everything that we do here is supported by the sales of that game that you've just watched the trailer for, Neofeud, which is available on Steam and itch.io. If you have a second to leave, if you got a chance to play it, don't forget to leave even a very short review, as it does support everything that we do here at Silver Spook Hui, which is a cooperative / commune here on the Big Island of Hawaii, where we have no bosses and no landlords to produce anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist cyberpunk games, as well as housing and feeding and educating and caring for our community here, our comrades, our Native Hawaiian and other people here on the illegally occupied country of Hawaii by the United States Empire. Anyways, yeah, so that's out of the way. Oh yeah, you can also become a Patreon, and of course, there's also a donation link somewhere, although I'm not sure where it is. I think Holly has it. But yeah, do share the stream if you have if you know can't give us anything right now. I understand everybody has a limited amounts of discretionary dollars and cents to be throwing around. But anyways, yeah, just trying to fix my green screen here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I hope everybody is doing as well as can be managed on today, Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. Plantation has to go. You know, the ongoing slavery that still exists has to go. Let's you know, there's still no justice in the United States. Slave plantation, unfortunately, for a lot of people. I mean, for everybody who lives there and everybody who is under its thumb across the world, the global slave plantation that is the United States Empire. So today we're going to be talking about topics. You know, I just finished playing through Chronicles of Riddic. I'm sorry, not Chronicles of Riddic. I just recently finished playing through Riddic Escape from Butcher Bay, which is a video game set in the Riddic universe. Oh, what is up? What is up, Enkidu? I bought Neofeud last week and I love it. Great work. Thanks a lot, Late Nightly. Thanks for buying and playing the game. It is greatly appreciated. Yeah, it is greatly appreciated. So yeah, we are going to be discussing. I'm just looking at the chat real fast. We are going to oh yeah, somebody says maybe we should change the thumbnail. I might go back and change the thumbnail. Or maybe just a sentence, but I can't do that right now. But anyways, anybody who knows me, I'm not down for slavery, but yeah, I did want to kind of talk about how the Riddic itself has you know that yeah, what is the name of the stream? Riddic is base. Riddic universe is base. But yeah, I'll probably go back and change it. But anyways, the Chronicles of Riddic and the Riddic universe, generally speaking, is you know, it's a setting that is very much, how would you say it? It's a setting that is very much about fucking the police, not fucking the police, but fuck the police. It's very much, oh, I shouldn't say the F word. It's F the police, I'm sorry. It's about, you know, F the police, F slave catchers, and plantation / prisons. You know, and so it's very much a game that is, you know, in line with what Juneteenth represents, which is, of course, right, in memory of us. I mean, ostensibly the end of slavery in the United States, but you know, as I often bring up, like constantly on these in these streams, the United States has never abolished slavery, right? I mean, it's not a thing that the U.S. has ever sought to remove. Because why? Because the United States, which is where racialized capitalism really took root, it relies on slavery. Slavery, as I often bring up, slavery is the optimum form of capitalism, right? It's the form in which capitalism, which is the acquisition of vast quantities of profit by a handful of disproportionately cis, white, straight landowners, property owners, extracting the labor surplus value from the masses of people, disproportionately non-white. Generally, in the beginning, basically, mostly non-white, particularly once you leave Europe. I mean, what I often argue with through the games like Neofeud, which is that Neofeud is itself feudalism itself is just, it's exploitation of a class when the only people that you have are other white people around you in Europe. But once you leave Europe, when you get to places like Africa, then you enslave the African peoples, right? You get to Asia, China, right? You impoverish, and the coolies are Asians, China and India, which together are like half of the planet's population almost. And then you get to America, and you have stolen African peoples on, stolen indigenous land, right? Mass producing the, you have them mass producing, yeah. But anyways, I keep on thinking about this. I mean, I might just go back and like delete. I'm just gonna repost this real fast. But so it's kind of like, if you think of it that way, slavery and racialized capitalism and feudalism, they're not very different systems. This is a point I bring up often. And it's not like it's not a thing that you can separate. I don't think that you can break apart a feudal system, a capitalist system, and I'm just gonna retweet it like this. See if I can get Chronicles. I'm just gonna put the picture of Butcher's Bay, Riddic Butcher's Bay, because somebody was like, I just keep thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, I probably should change that. What's that? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just keep thinking about it. That's why. But I'm just gonna change the. Yeah. Let's see. But yeah. Anyways. But yeah, I mean, no, because but the main point is that, in the Riddic universe, right, it really is a story that's about the police represented. I'm gonna try to get some pictures of this. I know I've talked about Riddic a lot, but I really want to go specifically into Butcher's Bay. And so the Riddic universe, again, as I brought up, I have a whole long thread about it, so I won't read that whole thread. But basically, in the Riddic universe, you have prisoners centered, right? Main character Riddic, Richard B. Riddic, is the last surviving member of a annihilated race called the Furians, right? From the planet Furia. Of course, this is like an interstellar science fictional space civilization, right? So Riddic is a person of color, right? Vin Diesel, who is one, right? And would you have a character that is the center of the film, the films and the games, right? And is is not necessarily like depicted as like such an awesome, upstanding, great, awesome dude, but is depicted as like, honestly traumatized, right? Because of course his entire people were exterminated, at the point of basically, I call it Greco-Roman Western coated armor, wearing American gunslinging empire in space, right? They're called the Necromongers, right? And so it deals with, in the Riddic universe, right, the Necromongers, who exterminated all of Riddic's race, are very much they're space imperialists, right? Like this is a picture of these folks. It's Carl Urban over there, because Carl Urban is in every geeky, nerdy thing. And so, when you have Chronicles of Riddic, that's Chronicles of Riddic, and that Chronicles of Riddic came out in the same year as this Riddic Butcher's Bay, and Pitch Black came out a couple of years before that. But the entire universe is set up against imperialism, against U.S. military, as close as you can get without literally having the United States military going around the world, right, committing genocides, dozens of genocides, just slaughtering people. That's because that's what the United States military does, right? But there can and never will be a movie, a game that is seen and watched by millions of people that is ever honest about the U.S. military in complete, unabashed, unflinching, no punches pulled form, right? You will never get that. G.I. Joe, this Attack of Cobra is just some more xenophobia. Let's have another Red Scare. America is bringing freedom and democracy and justice and prosperity. There can never be. Because why? Because certainly not out of the West and not out of the United States. And the West is all subservient to the United States current, as Loki has said, the hierarchy of the United States. Or the hierarchy of the Western world, which is like when one empire fades, all the other Western former empires kind of fold into the new leading, whether that's the Eagle, the British, Union Jack, the French, empire, the French, Catholic, more Catholic flavored planetary imperialism, the Spanish conquistador led, imperialism, but whichever one is at the helm at the time, and they fight each other as well, right? There's inter white supremacist, capitalist, feudalist infighting, right? But then on the other times, they all have solidarity in terms of anti blackness, in terms of white supremacy, in terms of racism against Asians, against Pacific Islanders, against indigenous people, against all the other peoples. They have solidarity. But then they also fight amongst themselves, like French fighting Protestants, fighting Catholic, French fighting British, right? Americans having a spat with the British, and the French backing America. But then when it comes to racism, the British, the Americans, the French, they're all have their slaves, they have their colonialism, they still have their colonialism. They've never not for centuries, right? They might abolish full-on chattel, unabashed slavery, but then they have prison slavery under the 13th Amendment, right? The British might cancel, the British and the Canadians might say, oh, we don't have slavery anymore, but we still, commit genocide, we still have segregation, we still exploit the oppressed classes, we still chain up all the Chinese to build all of our railroads and the West Coast infrastructure. So like all of these like different that's what they're all united in that. So it's like and in the Riddic universe, like it's very much like the line is drawn, I think, as closely as you could draw without getting your film canceled, your game green light, turned into a red light, without getting your novelization, your book, your graphic novel, set on fire. We're absolutely not publishing that. Not the New York Times, not at DC, not at Marvel, not at no studio, because everyone in the West works for capitalism. Then there's no way around it. Everyone that participates and has any large, if millions of people are going to view, watch, read, play, tabletop, RPG, whatever they're gonna do, it is never going to reach vast quantities of people through the capitalist corporate publishing film studio structure, through the game AAA and single A, I would argue, capitalist corporate structure, promotion, distributions, online platforms, streaming. It's not going to get through that, because the people who have the money that are the the billionaire, the millionaire, and the corporate class are not going to dump money into something that criticizes them. And all of these structures at the highest level rely on the U.S. military, on continued racialized capitalism. So, like, really, the Riddic universe, to my mind, is the closest that you're going to get it's the closest that you are going to get to a honest depiction of the U.S. It's racism, it's white supremacy, it's imperialism, it's world policing, and it's internalized slave catching, which is, they call it policing, but it's what it is, right? So I think that it's a universe that is vastly underrated. It's a universe that is it's like Riddick was already saying, like, in 2021, I made this point before, I know, but in 2021, people just started talking about, hey, you know what? Maybe, when 2020, they're like, hey, the police are maybe a problem, like, I mean, large numbers of people. I mean, Black Lives Matter had been going on, but it hadn't really reached the level of like vast quantities of America and a lot of the world really recognizing the ongoing problem of the murderous U.S. police that don't solve crime, that don't stop rape and murder and burglary. They commit more burglaries than all the other burglars in total a dollar value of stolen goods. They commit more sexual harassment, abuse, and rape than the average citizen. They don't solve less than 1% of any of those rape cases. They kill more people than they save. They murder more people than they save. They mass incarcerate the 2.5 million, disproportionately people of color in variety of situations in the U.S. prisons and jails that are doing this ongoing slave labor that was never abolished. The West has never, and America has never abolished slavery. It's a lie. Juneteenth, by extension, is kind of a lie because slavery's not gone. It's still there. I have lots of kids that I work with who are doing slavery right now for the United States, mechanically separating Tyson chicken nuggets and great value chicken nuggets, unbranded chicken nuggets, Tyson, they're mechanically separating the Target, the Safeway, the Whole Foods, vegan and non-vegan goat cheese is being farmed by them. Slavery is not gone. So Juneteenth is like, it's important to remember, like, that's a nice step, but slavery is not gone. Mass Effect Revival reminds us it's time to abolish the space police. What it took you to May 17, 2021. Riddic was saying fuck the space police and the slave catchers in freaking 2003 or in the early noughties. So Riddic was saying something that nobody was prepared to hear. That's my argument. It's called space slavery is fucked up. And just like Earth slavery, and just like the Earth police, the U.S. police, that are the slave catchers, and it took everyone till 2020 to also figure out, till 2020, 2021 to figure out that the cops are slave catchers, right? And everybody's like, oh my goodness, I sat into this no-name book club reading. I watched this panel, in the middle of the Black Lives Matter action that I was at with 31 million other people, the largest uprising in the history of the United States. To stop the ongoing slave plantation of the entire United States, internally and externally. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize the police in the United States began as literal slave catching patrols to return the escaped black chattel owned people to the slave masters. Oh my God, I didn't realize this, right? Riddic was saying that in 2000, in the early 90s. That's what that's what this main character, this character here, the cop on the right side, and that's why I put space slavery, because I'm implying that this is a police officer. You see his badge, you see his blue, you see his, he's a very, the character in the game, Johns, is very much, he looks like a cross between the Terminator 2, the Terminator 2 cop, the liquid metal, like, horrific cop. He's like John Wayne crossed with Clint Eastwood. Have you seen this boy? Like the really, really bad cop. I mean, of course, in the United States, they only serve bad purposes. But this character is very much coded in the way he's wearing a badge. But and I was talking to Holly, but he's a merc, right? And a merc in the Riddic world means somebody who is paid to catch criminals and bring them to the prisons, who they are then paid by, so that they can be put into the system, to be put into the prison industrial complex, right? And but it's like but obviously, but now we know what do we know now? I mean, of course some people knew this, but not the vast majority of people, and some people still don't know this, right? Which is that the police of the United States were always slave catchers, right? They never stopped being that. It was never like, okay, now you're not, you used to be a slave catcher, now you're not a slave. You used to go around, terrorize, slaughter indigenous people, round up the black people to bring them back so they can pick some more cotton, and make sure they're harvesting enough tobacco for the capitalist, monopoly man with his money bags, who has always been tied into racism and slavery. It never wasn't. And there never was a point. And so it's kind of like, so the point in Riddic, and this is not in the Riddic world, that's not the only slave catcher, right? there's other mercs in the Riddick world, right? You have Johns, but then you also have like these guys, right? With the Dave Bautista was one of them in Riddick, the 2014 film. And these guys look okay. Well, these are the bad guys, right? These are bad guys because why? What makes these guys? Why is this guy good? He's this guy on the right here. Why is this police officer who is a white man, a white John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Chris Pine looking motherfucking cowboy, right? All the Chris Evans, Chris Pine, just generic Mayo white, anonymity. They all look the same. Why is this generic white man wearing a badge with a clean blue, police uniform and nice golden badge, clean shaven, clean hair? It's all costuming. I would argue that Hollywood and film, particularly in the United States generally, is cinematic eugenics. What's the difference? It's only this guy's clothes is dirtier. What they've got? Why are these guys bad? Because some Hollywood set designer decided to give them fatigues that are dirty, and that guy has a tattoo. What's the difference between them and this? It's all costuming. This guy is worse than all those. This cop is like one of the worst characters in the entire Riddick universe. But when you first see him in the show, he looks like he looks like Eastwood, I'm gonna call him John Wayne Eastwood, in space. He looks like the good white guy with the gun, he's the good white guy with the gun solving all of the world's crimes and stop the good lone, not unionized, not communist, not collectivist, because Ayn Rand told us all that that's evil and that causes authoritarian dictatorship, and then Stalin Marx kills 100 trillion people while you're starving, eating rats and the last grains of rice because your business is becoming inefficient when you become a communist and collectivist. That's why you should worship single, lone, self-bootstrapping, cowboy-ass, white, straight men. And I swear to God, if I see a Brokeback Mountain gay couple again, I'm gonna burn the goddamn I'm gonna burn my Golden Globe. I'm gonna melt my Oscar down. I'm gonna set fire to this envelope. Clint Eastwood stormed off, right, when there was a gay cowboy movie won a award in the United States Motion Picture Association. He fucking set it on fire because he's following Ayn Rand and he's following the motion pictures written literally by an anti-communist and a right-wing idol. Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, Larry Summers, and Joe Biden, they're all right-wing. They all have a statue of Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged in their and a giant plaque that's like 200 feet tall, right behind their own naked portraits of themselves that they spent $3 million on. And Clint Eastwood, as the cowboy, right, John Wayne, as the strong, straight, cis, white law enforcer against what? Against the darkness, against the criminals, the lawbreakers, the dark guys, the dark guys in their fatigues, in their dirty criminal getup with who knows what kind of tattoos, breaking in and stealing the bank vault, the Indians running around, right? Cowboys and Indians. All those savages just running around, killing each other, red on red crime. Oh, such a problem. But the cowboys solved the red on red crime, just like the police in Oakland solved the black on black crime by just locking them all up. For who? For the neo-feudal Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Bezos, Clinton, Bush, Koch, Jobs, Gates, Walton, neo-feudal lords, right? But cowboys what is this about? This is about the good, straight, cis, white cop with a gun bringing law and order to the world, to the uncivilized world, to the uncivilized, chaotic, savage world, the savage world of Africa. The word indigenous, right, actually comes from, it was first spoken by a British officer in 1600s when he said, these native N-words, these N-words in the United States, in this territory that we call the Americas, are not they are not native. We brought them, so they and he describes it as they were frolicking and you know, just festering all over the place. But then there's another indigenous savage, and so the word indigenous is to differentiate the subhumanized African stolen peoples from the locally enslaved and genocided Native American peoples, right? That's what the word indigenous comes from. That's the first time it was used in that context, and that's how it has been used. You know, which is I mean, you know, of course, you know, I'm a dialectical semiotician, right? But like there has this horrible history. I'm going to be talking about this later on today with a bunch of folks from around the world on Indigenous History Month's Indigenous History and Future panel. But that's where that word comes from. And so, but to the European settler, colonial, racialized, capitalist, feudal, slavery, capitalism, it's all the same fucking system, people. That word indigenous just means those frickin' subhuman animals that were here originally versus the subhuman animals that we kidnapped, shanghaied, stole from their original land and brought. That's all it means, right? I argue that like that word, most of the world is indigenous. The indigeneity literally in Wikipedia is defined as against the European colonizer. That's all it means. It's basically, if you're not a European, and particularly Euro colonizer, you're indigenous. So 7/8 of the world, the vast majority of the world is indigenous. Actually, the vast majority of the world is in Africa and Asia, even though we don't describe it as such. I wonder why we don't describe it as such, because the word indigenous is used to cage indigenous peoples into a fictional cowboys and Indians version of themselves, which is about they have to stay in the past. They have to stay as a museum wax artifact with a headdress. Not that there's something wrong with that headdress that they had and the Indian clothing, the indigenous clothing that they had at the time. But the point of the indigenous people, the point of the word indigenous today, I would argue, except where it's of course recaptured, but the way it's used by white people is to say, well, you don't count us. I've had this for myself. I have lots of other fellow game devs, indigenous game devs, who are told you cannot make a game that's indigenous. They're gatekept by the people with the money and the power in a place like the US or Canada by saying you cannot make an indigenous game. It doesn't count. We're not going to give you, you know, $500,000 for this Canadian or American for the promotion of indigenous games. We're not going to give you an indigenous games grant unless it looks like your indigeneity has to look like how it looked like in 1700, or you are not getting any money. You cannot show an empowered indigenous people that have advanced technology, advanced computer science. You can't show a neo-noir game where in a recaptured Toronto that is no longer Toronto with indigenous people running cities, their own cities. You can't show that. That doesn't count as indigenous. So that's what, you know, I would argue. That's why I like to talk about, like, I'm just saying the Vietnamese people are indigenous because that's part about recapturing what the actual indigenous people's successes. When you leave the Vietnamese, and I would argue the Chinese and a lot of African peoples out, when you leave the Bolivian people out, I'm waiting for the Bolivians, right? Because they have advanced solar manufacturing, because they have, you know, high-tech universities, scientists, engineers, they have Bolivian coders running that country, kicking out Western fascist capitalist Euro colonizer assers like fucking Elon Musk, the United States and Germany, taking 97% of the lithium. I would argue that Bolivia will be declassified from indigeneity just because they've become so advanced. I'm just waiting for Bolivia to, oh, they're not indigenous anymore. Why? Why? It's because they don't look like the oppressed savages that the white West wants you to look like. Anyway, so that's another part of that Cowboys and Indians, and that all, you know, it all factors into Riddic, because the main character is pointing out what's the difference between the white cowboy, the sheriff, the slave catcher, and the space and the U.S. police in Oakland, the U.S. police in Baltimore, the U.S. police in Honolulu that shoot 6 times more per capita Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiians like me than white people, even worse than black versus white police murder ratio in the illegitimate continent of the United States slave plantation. Hawaii is the most ultra-American in terms of police murder and police mass rounding up people, children in fucking schools. And so, there is no difference. That was the point of Riddic. Nobody was ready for that. Nobody could get it. That's why I got like 30% reviews, The Chronicles of Riddic. Nobody, I mean, and Vin Diesel and the people who made it very rightly, these are just some screenshots, they very rightly decided that, you know what we're going to do? I'm just going to take this off for a second. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to like make a horror movie. It's called Pitch Black. And then we're going to make an kind of action Star Wars-y movie. It's called Chronicles of Riddic. And it's like, everything is just kind of slipped in under the radar. Much of it is just, it's kind of, it's slipped in, which is the thing that you can do when you do horror, because it's a very much a genre that's seen as not prestigious, not for the aesthetes. It's not going to get into the Criterion Collection. You're not going to get your NYU professorship of cinematography and film history reviewing, horror movies, because that's not viewed as, high art. That's not prestigious. That's not whatever, right? And so, that's why John Carpenter could say a lot with things like Evil Dead, and these things happen again and again. I don't think it's a mistake that Jordan Peele is like leaning towards horror, because it is a genre that there's multiple reasons for that, but one of them is that you can get away with a lot of things in horror that you couldn't get away with if you're making a romantic comedy, a straight up action movie, a Marvel Cinematic Universe billionaire philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy, imperialism standing piece of garbage, like every Disney movie basically is, and every Marvel movie, every comic book movie, with very few exceptions. Everything I've ever seen out of Marvel's hot garbage. And I've made multiple videos on this channel specifically about that. But when you do horror, there's a different set of rules. There's a different set of gatekeepers and money people, and the depths to which they will investigate, it gets much lower. And they know that not all the audiences are gonna watch it, right? But then, and so sometimes you can slip it in, these things. But I think that's why people didn't like, not that why they didn't like, people viscerally reacted against those films, partially because America is just a racist country and Vin Diesel doesn't look like a leading man. I was talking about what's the difference between Vin and Keanu. See, Keanu looks like the straight cis white leading man, like a softer version of that. He has kind of like, he's kind of Asian-y looking, but he's just white enough. He's just this side of white to pass as a 90s heartthrob, and so he's in Speed. So he's in Speed, Speed 2. The Lake House. He's in all these. He's like the main go-to Hollywood man, leading man for a lot of the 90s. And then, but in Johnny Mnemonic, they thought, but he's also this side of Asian, right? So when they recut Johnny Mnemonic, which is, it's a great cyberpunk movie, they can recut Johnny Mnemonic in English and Japanese. I would also argue that thing, this decision to kind of like put Keanu Reeves at the top part of it, and to, in the filming of that, was purely capitalistic, I would argue, from the studio's perspective. Well, we could make double the money. We're gonna push Keanu to the white audiences as a white guy, and then we'll recut the whole thing in Japanese. And it's really, the entire thing is re-edited for the Japanese sensibilities. That's when they don't bring this up. But when you localize films, it literally is about setting a film and a game and anything else for the racial stereotypes, the prejudices, the cultural realities, and the political realities of those countries. It's not just about translation, right? And the Japanese edit of Johnny Mnemonic is totally different. They leave in all the anti-Christianity stuff. They leave in all the right-wing racist stuff. They leave in a lot more comedy that it really takes, like the preacher character takes a lot more blows at far-right conservative Christianity, where America is just a far-right country, so you can't really attack the far-right, and you can't attack the right, and you definitely can't attack Christianity, certainly not in the mid-90s. But the Japanese cut throws all that stuff back in, and all the comedies back in. The U.S. cut it as a serious action movie, and that's part of why it failed, because William Gibson and the director, they had planned to kind of, cyberpunk Bill and Ted was more like what it was, rather than just like, it's more like cyberpunk Speed, the final American cut. Anyways, but you know, and so but for the studios, it's like, well, all we care about is we're gonna make double the money. We're gonna make Western audiences because he's like he's like a chameleon. He can code white and then he can code Asian for the Asian audiences, right? And so, but you know, someone like Vin Diesel, you know, he's, you know, like he has an entire one of his first films that he ever made was a show about how he is ethnically ambiguous, and how he had a really hard time trying to discern whether he was, you know, he had a really hard time getting parts because he either was too black to play a white character, or he was too white to play a black character. And you know, he's very much like a you know, he's in between everything, and so that's been a struggle. And I think that informs a lot of the films, you know. Of course, I don't know, I'm just kind of reading a lot of this stuff in, but I mean, from the movies that he's made and the games that he's made, it you know, like there's a lot of games and films that have a lot of words in them, like Planescape Torrent, like you know, all the RPGs, like all the JRPGs, Final Fantasy 7, well, it hasn't have much words, but it's lots of characters and worlds and things happening, and they're saying a lot of words. Neofeud has a lot of words. Disco Elysium has more words. It has 1 million. I only have 76,000 in my defense. So people, yeah. But you know, Riddic doesn't have a lot of words to say, but to my mind, like, Riddic says more than almost all the movies, games, RPGs, and many books. You know, particularly like the volume at which it's being said and what is being said. It's not really. It's the presentation of what is normal. It's the meta story. It's not like what character moves here and what character goes where and whose emotions were felt. It's like, what is reality, right? And the background radiation of the universe. It's like, what is the water in which the characters swim? A lot of times, to my mind, is more important than what specifically happens. You know, what's more important about the X-Files, Torchwood, a Doctor Who spin-off that centers around police investigations? What's more important about fantasy Torchwood, you know, speculative fiction, conspiracy theory-based X-Files, LAPD, you know, serious cop show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? Diverse late 20-teens comedy cop show. What's important is not the comedy. What's important is not the science fictional Doctor Who British humor satire of Torchwood. What's important is not the X-Files, you know, I'm a witty ex-CIA officer and my daddy is a hedge fund manager in New York City and my uncle works in the Pentagon, and I'm gonna talk about all the cancer men and all the conspiracies that are real that America is constantly doing to hide the truth from all of its citizens, as William Casey, the CIA director, admits that the U.S. CIA's program of disinformation will be complete when everything the American public believes is false. And the important part about X-Files is not that the science fiction and finding the secret Area 51, you know, little green men with their little like Asian coded eyes, because America and the West is a racist hellscape, and finding the Bigfoot and the paranormal activity being determined to be either a literal Catholic exorcism or very advanced form of magic tricks and illusion by some scam artist from North Dakota, or whatever that episode happened to be. The important is not the magic, the sci-fi, the comedy, or the serious cop show. What's important is not the stories of all of these American television shows and films. And Western in general. What's important is that what unites X-Files, Torchwood, LAPD, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the cops as a whole, right? The water in which it swims is the cops, FBI or police. Mulder and Scully, they're very funny, entertaining, and a lot of good chemistry, and lots of science fiction, and Deus Ex and Warren Spector based a lot of this shit based on, they're gallivanting and being chased around by black helicopters full of nano augmented cyber agents that, and that's very fun. That's very fun. That's a very fun show. But what unites all of these shows is the cops in general are good. That was the important, that's how you get funding in the West and in America as the headquarters of that. You get funding in Hollywood, in the TV industry, when you show complete abject lies, which is what? The cops are solving crimes. I mean, whether that's X-Files, even if it's just solving whether Bigfoot is real or not, you know, and whether the little green men that are sitting underneath a lab somewhere near Roswell in the heartland, right? You're still solving something. You're not what? What are the FBI doing? Having 330,000 documents surveilling black identity and black activism and trying to murder Fred Hampton and killing Black Panthers, right? Chip, one of the black... Biden is over there waving his, you know, old eldritch racist white lich finger, right, at Putin, right? That's probably touched like 3 different black girls' hair that day and did all kind of disgusting things because Biden is a disgusting misogynist, racist, imperialist who never saw a war that he didn't want to murder a bunch of people of color in for all of the resources. And Biden is waving his finger over at Putin, going like, if anything happens to Alexis Navalny, Navalny in prison, there's gonna be hell to pay. Meanwhile, Chip, Black Panther just died in prison, on top of countless other ones that have died in prison and have suffered. And you have Assange, you have what was done to Manning. You have the litany. Every of the 2.5 million people in, almost every one of the 2.5 million people in U.S. prisons is a political prisoner, right? They're in prison for being black on a sidewalk, just like the FBI, like Mulder and Scully's actual job. Mulder and Scully's job is not to solve whether the cancer man, right, caused cancer by, you know, putting red dye number 40 into everyone's soft drinks, which he did. It's called the United States capitalist system that doesn't give a shit about your health. And, you know, tobacco will solve cancer, and also cigarettes that are toasted, you know, like Marlboros that are toasted with a white John Wayne cowboy smoking them are better for you. They solve twice as much lung cancer as camels, because camels are from a Muslim country, and Muslim country bad, just like China bad, right? It's called Orientalism. So whenever you believe any Western media's story about how China bad, because that bad is the Orient where evil bad things come from, that's Orientalism. But anyway, that's how marketing works. Is America is playing to everyone's racism, stereotypes, and permanently forever lying to everyone about everything at all times. So of course the cancer man he's making himself get cancer, but more importantly, he's giving everyone else cancer for trillions of dollars of false advertising, marketing, and exploited black and brown wealth in prisons, in external slavery, in global south, to make all your iPhones with all the resources out of his African countries, because he also has shares in Apple. He also has shares in Amazon and all of the AWS, which has shares in the US military with multi-billion-dollar contracts. And so of course those people are doing all those things, right? But what's important is that that guy is the bad guy. There's lots of good cops, whether that's in the FBI, right, that are killing everybody trying to stop the ongoing slavery, right? The police that are also killing George Floyd, they're killing Breonna Taylor, and then not, you know, and then for the vast majority of them not suffering any consequences. You put one Chauvin is not yet in prison, let's be clear. Chauvin could be making millions of dollars just selling Skittles and other paraphernalia. Here, Derek Chauvin knee pads for 80 million white, racist, and never going back on it. Cop stand that love, you know, the people who love Johns and Clint Eastwood characters, and every one of the 50% of all American TV shows that center cops. They want a Chauvin. They want a Johns gun. I want a space suit with a cop badge on it. I want Chauvin knee pads. Chauvin could make $2 million selling fucking knee pads. This is, you know, it saves your fragile, your alpha testosteronated, very manly, not fragile knees from being harmed and getting you know, some black disease from the black neck that you're kneeling on. I'm not even joking. The murderers of black people make millions. Kyle Rittenhouse got 3 different sponsorships from a coffee company, a t-shirt company, and like some kind of radio show. He got millions of dollars for shooting people for supporting black lives. America will never not be a racist country. Most of the country that still has American flags look like this fucking guy or want to be that guy. And so, you know, and the police, right? And whether that's Brooklyn NYPD, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, what is this about? Brooklyn Nine-Nine is, again, it's about airbrushing the slave catchers in New York City, right? It's about Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a show where you have Jewish cops, you have black cops, you have female cops, you have gay cops, you have gay black cops, you have Hispanic cops, right? You have Terry Crews. I mean, these are, I mean, again, like David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, very good. They're good at their job acting. They have funny the writing team, the writing room is over there winning Pulitzers, or well, not winning Pulitzers, but they're doing their job. Again, these are all talented people making the cinematographer, the set, the design. Everybody's doing their job. Like, it's entertaining to watch, undeniably. But I often bring up, right? What is entertaining? What is well written? What is well produced? Well acted? Well filmed? Well special effected? Well CGI'd? Well make-upped? Is separate from what is benefiting the world positively in terms of politics, education, and manufacturing the reality, not just the consent, but the reality that people believe that they live in, right? So what is Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Brooklyn Nine-Nine is about, X-Files is about making the FBI look like they don't just go and murder black people and try to undo the liberation of the actual oppressed people of America. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is trying to make NYPD look like fuzzy, friendly, funny, just like anti-racist good peoples, right? We're just all cute little, that's why the US, the CIA is like, my abuelita is so happy that after we escaped our CIA coup in Guatemala, under the murder of thousands and thousands of us, and my abuelita is so happy that I joined the CIA. I'm a Hispanic American descendant of a Guatemalan fucking hellscape American murder factory, and now I'm in America and I joined the CIA so I can do coup. The CIA has ads on Twitter recruiting to the CIA from Hispanic communities. But that is par for the course, because indigenous people, Native Americans, are grossly overrepresented in the U.S. military. Native Hawaiians grossly overrepresented in the U.S. military. Black and brown grossly overrepresented in the U.S. military. This is a strategy that they use. That's why Finn in Star Wars was a very important character. It could be a very important character, because that is the process of imperialism, particularly for places like the Rome and the United States. Very much that way, right? Anybody can join, but you can come to America and you can buy your way to humanity. You're a subhuman savage in Africa, or you're an indigenous savage in America. That's what indigenous just means. Those subhuman insects that happen to be from the land that we're currently colonizing. That's the only difference. That's what all that word means for the Euro-colonial peoples. And you can buy your way, indigenous insect, into something like a human, maybe 3/5 of a human. But you got to join the U.S. military and go murder other insect. I'm sorry, brown and black people and Asian people over there. Murders those other people over there for the empire, and maybe we'll give you your 6-figure salary for the U.S. Marines, the Air Force. Become a black army personnel and kick in doors in Iraq and just shoot the first man that stands up, kill every 16-year-old in Fallujah just for walking around the town, and being at the age in which they could be considered an enemy combatant, and just murder all the 16-year-olds, waterboard 100 teenagers, pouring water and torturing them and flashing the lights on and off with sleep deprivation torture, blast Matchbox 20 at 100 decibels for hundreds of children in Iraq, and hurt, kill, torture, and abuse the shit out of people whose resources we're trying to suck out of the ground for Bush, for the Clintons, Bushes, the Bidens, all of these clowns. And then maybe if you do enough killing and murdering of other people like you, we'll consider maybe giving you, a nice, maybe a GI Bill. You can be a GI Joe, right? You can be a black man killing other black people. That's the only way you're ever gonna. You can be a black cop and slave catch your fellow cops. That's Kamala Harris. That's your two options. Because if you're not doing that, we sure as fucking gonna give you anything else. You're gonna be working at the 7-Eleven. You're gonna highlight receipts in the Walmart, and you'll be rounded up for the prison. So either you do the slave catching or become the slave. That's the options that they give you nowadays. And so Brooklyn Nine-Nine is about join the police. Black people, women, everybody can join the police and round up your fellow oppressed people. That's LAPD. Every cops. I can't even believe cops was only canceled in 2020. This is the whole show is stand the slave catchers who are rounding up. It's literally every episode. You got 10 people of color in hoodies being thrown to the ground and then thrown in prison as if cops are solving crimes every day, day in and day out. The only, and there's basically no shows and no movies that do what, that I can think of. There's some that are just kind of neutral, but none of them do what Riddick does, which is like depict the United States police, the slave catchers of the world, and the world police of the world, the U.S. military, accurately. There is I can't even think of anything, nothing that has been shown and played and seen at that level. So how the fuck Vin got the studios, how they got the military industrial complex propaganda arm and of Hollywood and the interactive propaganda arm that is the AAA game industry to throw money at him, I am amazed. I mean, Vin is much smarter than everyone else that's ever written or made a book and a movie and a game ever in history, because I don't know how the fuck he managed this. Because even with Grand Theft Auto, it's like, hey, how awesome is it to be a bad guy? It's like white, straight, it's like white suburban rich kid LARPing people of colors experience, just going, and what they want to do is just go around, shoot people and rape prostitutes. The character Riddick is you don't hurt women. He's he's a criminal, right? But he's he has a strict code. You don't hurt women. You don't hurt children. You don't hurt people that don't have it coming. Just as much as possible. He is a survivor. He's had to survive. He was literally born in a fucking trash can, and his entire people were genocided. And then he was thrown into a brutal, carceral, capitalist space hell world, and he survived. But he still has a code. This guy, the guy on the right, on the other hand, doesn't. The John's character absolutely does not. This is where it was where Polygon, we're a bunch of fucking genius nerds who used to be STEM and some of us still are STEM manufacturers of auto guidance systems for Lockheed Martin's fucking missiles, playing fucking World of Warcraft. That's like the #1 game for the CIA. I'm sorry, the naval intelligence officers. We just figured out that maybe we should abolish space police. It took you that fucking long? Really? Took you until almost the entire United States was incinerated by 31 million people rising up for fucking stopping the black murderer by the so-called police, so-called law enforcement? Took you that long? This was in 2000 and early 2000. So, again, I'm just full disclosure. I am not saying this because I want Vin Diesel to play Carl Carbon in Neofeud, the movie. Or I'm not getting $1,000 a day to show for Vin and John Cena for Fast 9, I'm just saying this because that's what it is what it is, And I did not realize this till way later myself. It's only going back and looking at, it's only going back and re-examining the Riddick universe and the Riddick films, that I really noticed, that I really noticed the actual again, not the story. To me, the story is kind of irrelevant. That's why even all the RPGs. I mean, there's a lot of great RPGs and there's a lot of even a lot of cyberpunk. Because a lot of the meta story of cyberpunk is let's be all the bad black people from Oakland and the bad brown people from Spanish Harlem. Let's be all the bad people from downtown Honolulu. Let's be all the bad people from where I'm from, Kalihi Palama, where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a Pacific Islander, a Samoan, grew up. Let's be all the bad criminals and just kill and rape people. Let's commit lots of crimes and let's just do heists. Let's just bounce off the wall with my jiggling Motoko Kusanagi analog waifu in skin tight PVC. And watching her titties bounce off the side of a fucking flechette rifle that she's firing in slow motion with thermoptic camo on. Can we have the thermoptic camo? Now we have breast physics in DOA. That's really good that you guys pioneered that. Can we have breast physics, but only cloak everything but the breast? Can we do that so that I can masturbate in the middle of the heist action movie, LARPing a fictionalized version of people of color's impoverished experience before they go to prison? Because that's not how actual fucking people of color's low life high-tech low life, right? In the middle of what? Cyberpunk begins in what? In the middle of Law and Order's Reaganomics crackdown. But really, it's just a bunch of upper middle class white kids with fucking university degrees, right? Because Cyberpunk is not written for people from the areas in which they are writing about. It's written for, like, you know, Neuromancer is written for fucking people with PhDs and double PhDs in literature, anthropology, who are probably working for the goddamn Pentagon, trying to design fucking weapon systems to nuke Russia faster than Russia can nuke the United States. They didn't figure that one out. But, you know, that's, you know, it's Lockheed Martin fucking arms dealers, programmers for yacht for yacht companies in British Columbia, New York Wall Street traders. That's who's playing Cyberpunk. That's some, you know, who's still playing it? Bunch of Gen X, multi-six-figure making fucking FBI agents. That's who's playing Cyberpunk, acting like they're the punks. And it's about what? It's about the water in which Cyberpunk swims is. People from the shitty part of town are bad, and I want to be bad because I'm a good guy. I'm the good guy. I'm a FBI officer. I work for the U.S. military. I'm a good guy, but I want to play a bad black kid with a cyber arm, fucking shooting flechette rifles and a fucking green mohawk. I want to play a bad kid. You know, or either that, or some of them are like, well, I want to be the anarchist that I was in the 80s before I became a liberal fucking sellout with 50 Les Pauls and Gibsons with platinum and chrome limited edition inlays with Jimi Hendrix signed fucking name on the side of the Stratocaster. Meanwhile, who was anti-war, by the way. Meanwhile, I'm working for the goddamn U.S. military, fucking piloting drones and shooting at hospitals and preschools in fucking Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq. But I'm the good guy. I'm the good guy. I want to play the bad guy, or I want to play the anarchist punk that is fighting cops, but I am a cop. That's who plays Cyberpunk. That's who loves Cyberpunk 2077. That's who plays Shadowrun and Cyberpunk 2020. I mean, not all of them, but that's a lot of them, unfortunately. It's a game for liberal fucking sellouts. It's a universe a lot of the time. That's why I made Neofeud, because I said, fuck all of you. You're full of shit. This is what the actual this is what a high-tech low-life experience is actually like, because I'm a high-tech low-life. I'm a low-life in a reclaimed quotation marks. This is what that's actually like. It's fucking boring. It fucking sucks. You're dealing with disability. You're dealing with poverty. You're homeless all the time. You're constantly getting fucking whacked in the head for sleeping in front of the wrong person's fucking Hilton. You know, all those DOD and fucking Marines are showing up in your illegally occupied land, and you're over there trying to fucking ask for your goddamn land to be restored, or just fucking begging for fucking food and money and shit. And then a cop who probably plays Cyberpunk on the weekend on Sunday beats you in the fucking face and says, get the fuck out of the front of my Apple store. You're driving down the real estate value of my fucking $2.5 million per unoccupied gold banistered condo unit sitting in front of my Waikiki fucking condo. Get away from my Apple store. Get away from the Moana. Get away from Trump's Roast Carlton, because you're driving down my property value. That's what a high-tech low-life experience is like. It's like getting beaten in the face by the cops that play cyberpunk fake-ass fucking games. It's like getting beaten in the face all day and then nothing happening. And then nothing happening. You don't do any heists. You don't fucking break into the goddamn Militech tower and steal the plans for the Chinese ion cannon that shoots Nazi COVID 5G rays into people's lungs, like I'm sure G.I. Joe is gonna do to stop Cobra Commander, who is a Chinese-coded Emperor Shi, the people who make New Shiland is what New Zealand is for attempting to go against, I'm sure that's what the only thing America can ever make is fucking racialized and New York Times and apparently a bunch of Washington Post, New York Times, and the giant genius brain fucking liberal journalists just figured out there may be a link between imperialism and racism. They just figured this out. Kind of like Polygon and all those fucking mainstream games journalists, nerds figuring out maybe we should abolish the space police. Not that anybody's gonna fucking do it. Abolish the space. Mass Effect is being made again, and I'm sure they're gonna have an amazing standing of their space police, just like Falcon and the Winter Soldier is about how putting a black man inside, see, a black military member signing up for the military saves the world, and then a black military member feeling bad about how some black people got killed by the police. I mean, like two, like Brianna and George, and we're gonna make up for that by what? Having fucking him save the cops and the politicians in New York City, remember this, Captain America, Anthony Mackie's character, saves with Pentagon fucking war drones on his back that come out of his asshole. He has literal fucking $84,000 flying robot dogs that they're selling to the police. Battlefield 2042 is selling you robot police army K9 units. And remember, Falcon, it saves with his US military budget the New York NYPD, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's very cute, huggable cops that definitely don't mass incarcerate thousands of black and brown people and beat the shit out of them and kill them and knock over 80-year-old activists like in Buffalo, crack their skull on the side of the sidewalk and watch them bleed out into a puddle and then walk by. And then the two officers doing amazingly well right now, not incarcerated, not removed, with their six-figure salaries, right? Everything that ever comes out of the West End Hollywood will never be anything, with very few exceptions, anything but pro-slavery, pro-imperialism, pro-capitalism, maybe with a little bit of some Black Lives Matter and a LGBTQ plus sticker slapped on the side of it. Maybe Falcon can, maybe Captain America can slap a LGBTQ plus sticker on the side of one wing, and he can put a trans lives matter on the other one. Maybe he put like a Black Lives Matter on top of his shield. Oh wait, he's already black, so we got that covered. It's okay. Anthony Mackie brings up personally, again, this is no shade to Anthony Mackie. Anthony Mackie personally said, why the hell is every Marvel, every Disney, every movie studio, every production meeting I've ever been in, you got a couple of black people in the front, but maybe, and then everyone else, the whole production team, the writer, the funders, the banks that's giving the funders the funding, the producers, all the consultants, everyone behind the scenes, everyone making the key decisions, the director. You got all these white people, 98% white. That's Anthony Mackie said. I'm like the black guy. I'm surrounded by. How are you have all these white producers, shot callers, gatekeepers, writing a black story that's supposed to be dealing with racism? No, this is all fucking rainbow. This is all paint bucket racial representation, right? To throw fucking black paint on a white story. Same thing for Kim's Convenience, right? The Kim's Convenience, a soap about Asian convenience store owners, which, it has its own, the whole writer's room is all white. They never, and they said the actors in that show have said they never once asked us, the actual Asians, actual Korean Canadians, actual Asian Canadians, they never once asked us actual Asians for any input into. We actually tried to offer it and they rejected it. We tried to offer this is more what an actual Asian experience is like. The all white writer's room and the people calling the shots know much better the Asian experience of Asians in Canada. Vancouver, the highest increase of anti-Asian racism in the history, in the period of the last, in the most vast acceleration of anti-Asian racism, which was always in Canada and America and the West generally, as I've gone over in many other streams. And Vancouver had an 800%, the greatest level of anti-Asian racism, statistically, in terms of anti-Asian violence, murder, attacks, and other acts of racism. Canada, Britain, I think that's where the film is set as well, if I'm not mistaken. It could be in Toronto. The show, I'm sorry. And Kim's Convenience, skyrocketing Asian racism, and white Canadians are claiming that they know much better the Asian experience than the Asians. And but anyway, so I wanted to point that it's not what you get in movies as an actor is separate, I think, than the decisions that are made, and you don't have the ability to call all these shots all the time. But anyways, but the main point is that Riddick, the universe, Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick, Riddick Escape from Butcher's Bay, Riddick Dark Athena, right? They were way the fuck ahead of their time. And a lot of people, I will admit as well, I watched these films, I played these games without ever recognizing what was actually happening, right, in the beginning. It was only really thinking back, and there's something about these that is so different, and there's something that I like about them that is so different from these other films, and it's nothing to do with the story. I mean, again, this is as somebody who writes a lot of words, And this is not to throw shade at people who like having, like having like, 75 pages worth of novella in one character's speech bubble. So again, that's a self-crit, but Disco list. I mean, there's a lot. Planescape Torrent. I mean, they're very well-loved RPGs that have they're very much writing-centric. And when you're writing, you want to Quentin Tarantino is a writing-centric director. So I mean, it is what it is. It's just another style. But you can say, and I'm not saying that you can't say things with writing, but but the Riddic films say something very important without having to have the main character open his mouth and go off, into sesquipedalian, Shakespearean fucking soliloquies. You don't need to have, like Canadian TV, 75,000 words per minute level of, because like, I mean, Gilmore Girls. You've got there's lots of other Canadian shows. If you don't know Canadian, right? I mean, it's like prestige TV writing a lot of the times. It's very writing centric, and you're just trying to get all of the witticisms and one-liners in as fast as you can. Arrested Development. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking of random shows. They're very much writing centric, right? That's what maintains the interest. Is not the spectacle and the scene changes and the amazing, bullet time, slow motion, wushu, backflip, wire fu, kung fu fight sequences in these writing-centric games and movies and things. Disco Elysium, I would argue. What keeps the attention is the delightfulness of the writing, right? And again, I'm kind of going off. I mean, I like a point-and-click adventure, hyper wordy British nerd game as much as the next person. I've written at least one, two, at least one. So then. But you can, but Neofeud also deals with, I try to portray a lot of it, not just through the writing, but also through visually what's happening, right? The visual representations of characters in Neofeud, the broken, falling apart robots, the fact that everyone in the high multi-planetary conglomerate owning trillionaire levitating palaces at Versailles, right? The Clinton Bushes, the Koch jobs, and the Gates Walton families are white as white as white. They're literally eugenically white. I even say that. They have eugenically attempted to perfect their species. What white rich people view as perfecting their species. It's the ultimate G7 conference. We are the goldest. We are the most gold-filled, whitest. We are like ultra Caucasian. We're the most Caucasoid of the Caucasoid. Literally genetically engineered, manufactured in a lab. Now, we had a black doctor do the genetic engineering because we know that actually we're mediocre, talentless fucking hacks. They're the descendants of fucking apartheid gold miners and Wall Street ass clowns like Bloomberg. We know that. But so we have to actually pay other people, and that's a part of Neofeud 2 is actually like recapturing a lot of what like stuff that happened. There's parts of Neofeud 2 that are like maybe a lot of the science that was ostensibly credited to a white guy was actually stolen from other people. Kind of like, I don't know, all of the post-Newtonian calculus that was required to launch rockets to put white men on the moon was done by black women. And that's part of it as well. But and so like the visual representations to me are important. That's where, coming back to Riddic, that's where like the fact that the John's character, right? As I said, you can say so much just through the cinematography. What defines the criminal and what defines the good guy? Who is the good guy and who is the bad guy? Is often their whiteness. Who is the good guy and who is their bad guy? At least when you first see them. Who is the good guy and who is the bad guy is what kind of uniform are they wearing? Are they wearing this uniform? Or are they wearing this uniform? Or are they wearing this uniform? Are they wearing this uniform? Right? Are they wearing that uniform? Like, let's look at G.I. Joe. Are they wearing this uniform? G.I. Joe, fucking Cobra. Are they wearing this uniform? This U.S. military uniform? This is the good guy. You see, this is the good guy? Good guy. Captain Buzzcut. Now, who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? Oh, my goodness. Body type looks kind of effeminate. Kind of like, quote-unquote, effeminate. That's the way that they would often describe. The Asians were effeminate, not manly, and that was because of their degenerate empire had resulted in degenerate genes, making their men into unfeminine. All the right-wing, alt-right, alpha testosteronator, buy my book for $73, right-wing, Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, hyper-toxic masculinity that ran the world for the last like 4 years in terms of elections, particularly backed by the United States empire and all the surveillance capitalist companies that propagated it. All the stuff that they say about Asians are like, oh, their men are like hyper feminized. Or they're feminine, which is a result of these are all racist ideas, of course, under colonialism. That's what's played out in G.I. Joe. This is a effeminate, communist, Asian, maybe Russian coded bad guy. They're coming for our great American United States. You know, Cobra Commander, right? All these nasty, sneaky, deceitful, deceptful, dirty, right? They all have Wuhan flu or they have bubonic plague. Depends on what century it is. That's the Western exceptionalism and Asian racism, yellow peril, you know, Eastern hordes. Depends on what you're trying to say, but it's all the same shit. These are the good guys, you see? These are the good guys. You see the guys with this haircut? You know, you can shave your ass, you shave your head bald, get a buzz cut, put on a bunch of cloaks. It's what you know, become a GI, become a GI. You know, that's a good guy. That's a good guy. You know, but who's the bad guy, right? Who's the bad guy? Oh, they're red and black. You know the colors red and black. Those are like basically means you're like a critical race peddling Antifa super soldier mecha thug that's gonna come from Pinko Kami CCP, Venezuela, and then slaughter 100 trillion people with by taking all the white children and giving them to Spanish, Central South American rapists, and then some Muslims were gonna blow them up. That's what G.I. Joe is about. That's what every American film is about. It's a fucking Asian communist snakes are gonna come destroy my beautiful America. These people with their degenerate genes and their Wuhan flu are gonna come destroy my beautiful America. Red Dawn was actually China was supposed to invade Portland, California, and all of the West Coast. They changed it at the last second to the North Koreans because that actually China's defeating us. And this is only good news is that the East will destroy the West. Not destroy, but the West will just fall on its own accord because it's outplayed by the more advanced technologically, socially, and politically, like the Native Hawaiian civilization of China. But that's why they had to change it from Chinese. They had to change it from the evil Cobra Commander coming from China to the evil Cobra Commander coming from North Korea because China was the second biggest market. And the same reason why they chose Keanu Reeves because they could double their money by peddling. They could de-white racist fascist neocon Christian and liberal bullshit code Johnny Mnemonic into the Asian version and sell it to that. But they can't decode it if they have Chinese flags in Red Dawn, this film. It was in the 11th hour. They spent a couple $1 million to re-Photoshop and CG in North Korean flags over Chinese flags flying in bombed out West Coast cities. They put in Chinese North Korean uniforms on the soldiers that were invading America over the Chinese uniforms. Red Dawn. The first one was, of course, I believe it was Russia, right? Invades, right? Red Dawn. So who's the good guys? Who's the good guys? Chris Helmsworth, very white, right? Very white, very military. If you're black, you gotta be black, but you gotta love the military. But if you're black and you got a hoodie, that means you're a criminal and a slave. Who's the good guy, right? Swashbuckling teenagers that are ready to sign up for the fucking ROTC. Who's the bad guys? Who's the good guys? Patrick Swayze. White people with their fucking guns, right? Who's the bad guys? Who's the bad guys in Red Dawn? It was Chinese in 2014. This was the original. Red Dawn remake swaps out Chinese flags. Why? Because we got to start nuclear war with China for the military-industrial complex to burn the world down and spend the money in hell. Where were the Lockheed Martin and Raytheon CEOs planning on spending their money when they're incinerated from the nuclear missiles flying against hypersonic typodongs in the South China Sea? I guess the CEOs thought maybe I could spend. I think the exchange rate, kind of like the drachma yen US dollar exchange rate, which we're playing around in the London Stock Exchange with our high frequency trading programmers, making vast quantities of money just on technicalities. Maybe we can US dollar to Satan bucks. Satan has his own crypto coin. It's called It's called Cerberus coin. It's like Dogecoin but spicier, you know. So that's Satan coin. I hear that the Cerberus Dogecoin to US dollar exchange rate is very good. Maybe that's where the US military industrial complex CEOs were gonna. Their plan was they're gonna burn all of Earth and die. But when they go to hell, they're gonna like, because they believe in like money. You know, you keep your wealth when you die. They don't really believe all that stuff about how you like that, like, you know, I'm gonna put myself in Pharaoh's tomb, but my American version, and I'm gonna take all my wealth to hell, and I'm gonna spend my money in Neiman Marcus in the Sixth Circle. Like, I'm gonna have very nice, you know, like devil horn and pitchfork. Like, I'm gonna have golden pitchfork when I go to hell. That's what the CEO of Lockheed Martin was thinking to himself, I think. Because I don't understand how you're gonna start nuclear war, selling bombs and missiles, making war with China, a nuclear superpower, and then live. Anyway, the producers behind Red Dawn swapped Chinese flags and insignia behind North Korean owners, once for fear of losing out on billion-dollar box office. So again, they didn't make this decision because they were not fucking unhinged, off their shit, and evil people, right? Unlike Marco Rubio is like, oh, U.S. capitalism is not an evil system. No, it is an evil system. Marco Rubio just made Marxism start trending by all the clapback from leftists and people who don't like Marco Rubio all over Twitter. But anyways, they redesigned it not because they didn't want to start nuclear war with a superpower, piss off China, and just foment tensions and, I don't know, cause just horrific potential violence, war, and another 55% of discretionary spending of the United States to not go into healthcare, housing, rebuilding all the crumbling ass roads from the collapsed highways on the side of California's cliffs to the song of Texas ice and California fire that's destroying the entire the west of the United States and all of the United States generally. No, they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to lose out, the producers of this film, because they didn't want to lose out on billions of dollars of Chinese money, because they know that the Chinese are the game in town, and that Eastern communist collectivism and as EJ recently, non-compete friend of Silver Spook, the channel put a video out called Comrade Cobra Commander against the fucked up US military. The Chinese will win, and the East and a global South and left alliance will defeat the United States. They know this. Hollywood knows this. Even the Pentagon, they want to stop it by starting Battlefield 2042, right? But this is what it was. This was the original Red Dawn. It had Chinese flags. And who's the good guy? Who's the good guy? Who's the good guy? A bunch of fucking white-coated Chris Pratts. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Communists, red, yellow people, Asian hordes. So the way that you code things, it really matters. It doesn't really matter what happens in the thing. Who gets shot, you know, which white girl gets with which, you know, very funny but nerdy guy who comes out of his shell because he puts down his Spider-Man comics and then, you know, I don't know, puts on some axe and shaves his face with a Gillette Mach 5 razor that has 25 molecularly accurate razors that add, you know, COQ2 to your, your fitness regime. I don't know I don't know how they sell razors nowadays. I keep seeing these Squatch soap. You go hug your fellow, be a man in the wilderness. Make your own axe bullshit. But anyways, make your own, not axe cologne. Make your own like physical axes to chop down indigenous people's trees, I guess, as a white guy in the middle of the forest. I don't know. I don't understand Squatch soap ads. But anyways, Red Dawn, original Chinese. It was a Chinese flag because the United States doesn't make movies that are honest about the United States. It only makes movies that prop up the military-industrial complex, by extension, global hyper-capitalist imperialism. That's the only thing that Hollywood can ever make. And pro-cop, because it's about the world's internal colonialism of its black slaves by backing the police. And that's the only thing that America can ever make. And it's very sad. Very sad. But, you know, that's why the Chinese will win. Because, hey, guess, you know what's the highest grossing movie today? Let's look at the top 10 grossing movies of 2021. You know what they are? I'll give you a hint. It's not a Marvel movie. You know what the highest grossing movie is right now? Hi Mom. You know what Hi Mom is? You probably don't know what Hi Mom is because you're probably a Westerner because I'm speaking English. But I'll tell you what Hi Mom is. Hi Mom is a Chinese movie. You know what the second highest grossing movie is? Another Chinese movie. So, and the next American movie is by far, and the same thing for last year. This highest grossing movie was a Chinese history film, which America doesn't have a history class in private, public, or charter school, or in the Ivy League Emperor Palpatine training facilities of Yale, Princeton, and MIT. But China actually has history, and like Vietnam, they have actual history classes, and they also have history movies. But the highest grossing movie of last year wasn't the Chinese history movie. It was a Chinese movie called My Country, My People, My Homeland. And you know what that movie's about? It's not about starting war with China and then, oh fuck, I can't sell enough tickets because the United States is a neo-feudal, gold-diapered baby, collapsing empire with ass clowns running its CIA, its intelligence community, and its DC and Wall Street that don't know how to manage their empire. They get their asses fished out of the Venezuelan seas by the Venezuelan Socialist Fishermen Association, right? And so it's not because of the incompetence on COVID, the incompetence on imperialism. Even with all their money and their power, they're still fucking up, and they can't get the G7 to not look like a fucking douchebag slapfest between the British and the French taking off their white gloves with dead colonial blood of black and brown people all over it, and slapping the Queen and fucking Macron slapping each other's faces. Fuck you! You should have it in Paris because Versailles is much more imperial. Well, we're not supposed to say that. It's not 1850. Versailles is much. We have much better Prada $1,000 bags than the British haute couture. The British high street is nothing. The British high street is nothing compared to our French imperialism. My People Homeland, my homeland, unlike the clown shows that America produces, is a show about poverty alleviation. It's a show about the most successful indigenous people and civilization in the history of the earth. The highest grossing film of 2021 was a film about the opposite of capitalism, imperialism, and racism. It was a show about ethnic minorities being centered, actually. Not a story about how we have a black person on top of a Tomahawk missile. It's not a show about Kamala Harris being like, this one time I wasn't racist when I wasn't locking up all my brothers and sisters in Oakland. It's a show about the peoples across China, in particular the most privileged of them, going out, not getting a fine arts painting degree from the Harvard of the East, which is St. Petersburg, Petersburg, or fancy high level Russian universities. There's somebody who is like from a more well-to-do family in China, and they choose not to do that, but to go to Huawei regions that have no running water, that have no functional housing that isn't collapsing due to mudslides, that have no access to basically any education due to historical reasons and a variety of other reasons, going to people in extreme poverty, right, who have no real economics to speak of. They don't have any transportation, they don't have any water purification, they're dying from famine, they're dying from typhus, they're dying from all kind of diseases because they're in poverty. And it's about people of privilege giving up their bougie ass existences, writing New York Times bestsellers, making their $10,000 a month on a Patreon to be fucking fake historians like Armchair Historian that Luna has correctly corrected, because there's no history in the West. There's only Nazi and fascist and far right fan fiction. That's what all history is. It's like, oh, what if my people that I really want to be, which is white guys with guns, won? That's what the history in the West is. It's either that or in 1492, Columbus was the awesomest guy in the world, along with Thomas Jefferson, and saved the world from savagery. And so in China, they have actual history classes, and they also have poverty alleviation, where you go to the poorest areas and you don't get a degree making cyberpunk games for military industrial complex and FBI agents and people working for Lockheed Martin and people on the 200th floor in skyscrapers in Vancouver, San Francisco, Chicago, and New York City to fuck around as people of color in poverty, right? That's what cyberpunk, a lot of the genre is giving middle class and upper middle class white nerds shit to fuck around. This is the opposite of that. It's like, don't be an upper middle class white nerd fucking around with fake versions of poverty. Get out of your privilege. They're not white, right? Leave your privileged life that you have on the backs of the working classes. Go out to the most impoverished of China and help those at the bottom, like actually help, not talk about helping, like, I don't know, giving 80 vials of vaccine to a country of 180, of 1.5 million people. Don't give 80 vaccines, right? Not China media. It's the Trinidad and Tobagans that were mocking the United States. And then so the US also doesn't have any truth in its news media. All it can do is just say China is berating us for giving you fucking don't give 0.01% the number of vaccines required to vaccinate a country of fucking 1.5 million people when China is giving 300,000. If you don't want, it's not China. You are duplicitous, you are mockable, you are rightfully mocked because you don't give a fuck about the Trinidad and Tobagans. This is just this is literally what Neofeud's about. It's like going to my $10 million a plate charity ball and making my Princess Sybil is just Princess Sybil is the 80 vaccine donator. Princess Sybil is, I build one mixed income, mixed species in Neofeud, right? The character Princess Sybil is the daughter. The king is basically just saying, yeah, go out and do some little hand-holding and, do some charitable work so that I look like I'm a good guy to all the liberal bleeding hearts that I need to win over, right? They literally say that. Just build one school and have a photo op with a bunch of starving black and brown kids. Just take some sick kids dying from COVID-19, give them hand Biden, what you should do, you want to really airbrush your image, go to Trinidad and Tobago, take the hand of a little black kid, go to Haiti, where you helped destroy. Take the hand of some kid who hasn't died in one of your earthquake and horrible crushing of that economy and people. Take your hand, take your white eldritch hand and say, hey kid, if you don't love America, you ain't black. And suck the blackness out of his arm with your white hand. That's what Biden would do. Because he's a fucking eldritch fucking Nazi. No, take your hand, take your white hand, take your old white hand, put it against the black kid's arm. Make sure they get a picture of your really white hand to show America is racially equal inside and outside of the country, right? Take your white hand, put it up against the black arm, inject the vaccine into the kid's arm, and then give the kid a big hug, put a blue ribbon on him and say you're so well spoken, black kid. You're so put together, just like Obama was. Just, actually, wait, don't say that. That might actually make you look racist. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm giving bad advice to no. Hug the little black child. I was the black kid. I was the brown kid that everyone's all hugging. And I was here with all the kids as a social worker and a STEM teacher for the under at risk and underserved youth of Hawaii, all the Native Hawaiians, all the black kids, all the brown kids, right? Biden, I can tell you how to do this because I was the person that they used to try to get their fucking photo ops. Take a picture of yourself, right? And then put that on, I don't know, Time Magazine, People Magazine. Blast that from all your blue check marks and your influencers, your mainstream and social media that you own. And then ban all the leftists and ban all of the anarchist, socialist, people of color. Just ban them all. I mean, it's fine. Just anyone who doesn't want to be Kamala or Obama, don't ask, or just shadow ban them. Just make it really hard for anyone to find their tweets. And then blast that across the world. America is healed. I'm Joe Biden, and I injected one vaccine. And that's the only vaccine. Just donate maybe 5. 80 is the Pfizer executive is probably losing $2,000 worth of money you could have made from the 80. Just donate 5 vaccines. Have you, Kamala, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and Homeland Security, each one of them, right? Janet Napolitano, who is the current ex-U.S. military intelligence officer under Homeland Security that is breaking the legs of striking, San Diego, Santa Cruz, and Berkeley college professors as the $1 million salaried fucking UC system, University of California system administrator. Have Janet Napolitano come down with you. There's another black, it was a non-white woman. Have them all inject a bunch of black hands and go, see, America cares, right? Don't call it vaccine diplomacy. You reserve that attack for the Chinese. You reserve that attack. That's all America does is vaccine. All the West and all the G7 does is vaccine diplomacy. They don't do actual fucking vaccine. They don't give a fuck about the Trinidad and Tobagans. Hey, y'all black kids, you want to sign up for the daycare? I'm sorry, I mean the prison. Wait, who am I talking to right now? Anybody want to come back with me and go into the U.S. prisons that I made with my crime bill? Biden is just looking out on black kids like, I could make at least $1 million if I round up 10,000 black kids, just like judges in Michigan who made $1 million being paid by the prison industrial complex to lock up 12 to 18-year-old black kids. Hey, any of y'all black kids want to come back from Trinidad and Tobago? It's and so then the cabinet and Biden's Secret Service are gonna have to pull him back, trying to grab black kids to throw in prison, right? Wait, don't throw them in prison. The cameras are rolling. Wait till the cameras stop rolling, and then fund the police another $300 million, $500 million. Wait till this camera stop rolling. Biden, wait till this camera stop rolling. No, but that's how you do it. shoot their hand and go like take like put like plastic chains. I mean, I don't know. Biden is probably like very old. I don't know. He's very fragile. His mind's almost gone. He's basically like he's at like maybe 3 neurons left that haven't like turned into like rotten like insure-ridden pieces of racist garbage because his whole mind is racist garbage. But take Biden. What he should do is take like very fragile like maybe plastic that's been corroded with acid, plastic chains. Put it on a black kid's arm on Juneteenth, right in Haiti, and then like take the chains or take like a black kid that you put in prison. Put the chains on the black kid's hand. And then like have Biden and Kamala hold the chains on the black kid's hand and then break the chains and be like, you see, we've liberated the black community, and just do a huge photo op, you know? See, I should have been a scriptwriter for Hollywood. I could have write all this stuff that makes America look like it isn't a racist slave plantation. But break the plastic chains off, right? Take the picture of that kid. This is the stuff that they would do with me when I was in Honolulu, which is a racist shithole. They put the chains on the Hawaiian kid's hand, right? Break the chains off the Hawaiian kid. Here, look at the Hawaiian kid planting his kalo, tending his here, look at this Hawaiian hut. As if Hawaiians all fucking live only in the huts today, but you know, look at this Hawaiian hut and look at me. Oh, I'm a white man fucking running for fucking Senate. I'm a fucking Gusan, or I'm a brown fucking Oreo fucking coconut, white inside Hawaiian, running for mayor, running for senator. Look how much I love these Hawaiians, holding the Hawaiian kid. My job was to take pictures of the white man holding Hawaiian kids, holding black kids, holding Puerto Rican kids, holding Marshall Islands, holding Pacific Islander, holding the Chinese coolies kids. Oh, look at this little Chinese slave. You know, we used to have these little Chinese kids carrying them. We used to have them carrying British officers on their backs. But now these little Chinese kids, you know, they're like frolicking around in our little ghettos. I mean, our gentrified mixed species, mixed income. I mean, we're all the same species. We're all the same species. Is that, what year is it? What year is it? Is it 1800? What am I supposed to say now? That's the only question that the West asks. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about anyone. Nobody fucking cares about anyone. They donate fucking 80 vaccines. You know, but you know who cares? The Chinese gave 300,000 vaccines. And so, you know, that's the difference. And that's why the Chinese will win, is because they actually alleviate poverty. They actually fucking get people the vaccines. And people are like, I don't want to work with America. You know, Trinidad and Tobago's, you know, as I brought up, you know, where is that? The CN. Yeah, here it is. You know, it wasn't the Chinese. The Chinese were just bringing up the fact that the Trinidad and Tobagans, this is the Trinidad, the non-white peoples in Trinidad and Tobago were like, hey, 80 vials or 80 boxes of vials. Are you serious? 80 vials? Surely they must have missed out on some zeros. This is Trinidad and Tobagans. You're like, it's not the Chinese. It was the people of color in that country that were mocking the U.S. 80 vials, bro. What? They're trying to help out a single household. 80 whole vials. Wow. Like, you know, like high five. You know, what the fuck? Hey, but anyways, I mean, some of them are also Chinese, but I mean, you know, I mean, fuck. I'm a native Hawaiian mocking you, motherfucker. Fuck you. You deserve to be mocked. U.S. Biden, you entire fucking clown show. Also, stop illegally occupying Hawaii and banning our language. You mockable pieces of garbage. Jesus Christ. But Reuters is a rag that does Western imperialism, is pissed off on behalf of the United States because that's all they do. Like Hollywood, all it does is airbrush white supremacist capitalist empires. All that Reuters, BBC, the New York Times, NYU, Democracy Now, fucking even the Jacobin to a large extent, particularly when it comes to China and anything that actually questions Western supremacy. All they do is fucking lick the ass of white supremacy and the U.S. empire and all of its friends. So you all deserve to be mocked, but it's okay because the Chinese are they're winning last year and they're winning this year. This is a movie about leaving and physically going and doing work, like not taking a fucking picture with a native Hawaiian for 5 seconds and having the most sick thing was they said, Silver Spook, I need you to go take pictures of me holding the hands of these Hawaiian and brown and black kids. You know, I'm the one who's doing all the goddamn helping and work. They didn't do shit. But I don't get the pictures with me on the front page. I don't want the pictures of me on the front page. You go, look at me, Silver Spook, personally, right? Teaching kids, you know, fucking like, you know, how to read and write that haven't failed in 5th grade and they can't reach fucking 1st grade level. in 5th grade. I don't need a goddamn, I don't need a fucking plaque. I don't want to run for any of this sick empire. It's a illegal occupation. But they want me to take pictures of them who have never, they don't even know the names of any of these kids. They don't even know my name. They don't care about my fucking name. They're paying me starvation wages to help these kids. And they want me to take a picture of them, some rich white fucking senator, University of Hawaii fucking administrator, fucking CEO of an airline company, want me to take pictures of them holding the little black kid's hand, holding the little brown kid's hand, and go, look at how good I am helping them plant his kalo. What is this called? Is this a kalo? They don't even know what the fuck the plant name is. They don't care. They just want a picture like the 80 vaccines, like the $3 billion a student lent. Oh, you forgave 0.1% of the student debt of the United States. Would you want a fucking cookie? No, you know what he wants? He wants a 2024 re-election. That's what he fucking wants. Please, college students, vote for me because I did what? I showed up and took a picture with you. But that's the major point of Neofeud, which is that all the Democratic Party is just, they're more competent imperialists because they take a picture with you holding your fucking hand. The Republicans go, hey, fuck you, and then they shoot at you. Right? That's Kissinger. That's like, I believe it was one of the left presidents of a Latin American country. I can't remember which one said. You know what I liked about Kissinger was that he would come out and come out and say, we're gonna hurt and we're gonna destroy you all and we're gonna take all your resources. So let's talk about it and what are you gonna do? Whereas the Democrats would come down and they would be like, oh, we love Chileans, we love Venezuelans, we love Bolivians, we love all you South and Central Americans. We're gonna help you, and then they fucking shoot you in the back. They stab you in the back. That's why I like Hawaii is the worst. It's the most competent fascism and mass incarceration, mass murder of people of color. Better than anywhere else in America in terms of the per capita numbers is in Hawaii, the illegal occupation of Hawaii. Why? Because we have 25 times more Democratic representatives, senators, and Democratic governors and mayors and money flowing into the Democratic Party and all their lobbyists than to the Republican Party. So the Republicans are failures. They're a bunch of losers. It's a clown show. They got themselves chased out of the goddamn out of the fucking sick slave plantation house called the White House because they're incompetent. They're all being chased out. The Republicans are a failing party because they don't know how to properly do their white supremacy and their imperialism. But Democrats know how to do it. They get that shit done. They're getting it done. And so, but it's okay because as competent as Biden is, the U.S. is not gonna win because actual films that normalize the social work, the helping, like for example, a man Lang was born in a mountain village in Northeast. He gave up his studies. He gave up studies at a key Russian art school and returned to hometown to help his hometown develop. In order to not let his wife Kigzya find out, he and the villagers are pretending to live in Russia by chance. So again, this comedy, right? Again, it's like NYPD and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. My People, My Homeland is a comedy movie, right? Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But it's not, what matters is not what joke was funny. That's the entertainment. That's why you're there. What matters is the meta story. What matters is what is normalized in the world. And what is normalized in the world is that going to remote villages rather than going to what? Rather than going to Russian fancy art schools, right? Rather than getting your degree and working in an art gallery and the art world is just money laundering with dead white guys like Van Gogh and fucking Rembrandt in pieces of paper. Some of them forged through Sotheby's and now non-fungible fucking tokens. That's what the art world is for. So instead of studying how to launder money for billionaires for millions of dollars, go to a village that needs help and build them water supplies, build them schools, help them get educated, like actually educated. Don't just show up and take a picture. Fucking show up and stay there for years and do the work. And you leave when the thousands of people in that village have water, have housing, actual housing. Concrete, physical development, concrete, physical, real help, not fucking words, not fucking. Here, I gave you a fucking. I gave you a vaccine. I gave you I lost it. I gave you 80 vaccines, right? No, you don't give 80 vaccines. You leave when the country of Trinidad and Tobago is vaccinated. And also, you don't fucking put it on your goddamn Twitter, go, look at how good we are. We're giving 80 vials of this and this. You go there and then you do the work and you help the people. That's what I thought my job was as a social worker. But apparently, what they need social workers for is to steal indigenous children from the parents and eradicate and commit genocide against Hawaiians. I didn't do that. Mostly I did the social services stuff, but I watched these other terrible things happen in the system. That's also Neofeud. But that's because the West doesn't have any systems to help anyone. They only have systems to pretend to help. So, but in China, you actually help. You leave Trinidad. You don't ever just, you give a little tiny little gift. You give, and then if you're not giving enough, you give some more. If people can't afford it, then you say, hey, you can pay some money and we'll give you some. But you don't say, we're not going to help you, right? You don't give gifts for show. You don't give gifts for airbrushing your image, which is a terrible, fucked up image. You do it because you were supposed to do it. And this movie, if you wanted to make, if China was going towards a capitalist structure, you would have shitty movies like, I don't know, wealth worshipping MTV's Cribs, like Kardashian celebrities, like billionaire philanthropists, arms deal, like literal billionaires being the leads of the greatest, highest grossing films in the Western world, like Iron Man, like Infinity War, where literal Elon Musk solves the world and the universe's problems with his genius brain and his finger snapping and his witty little comebacks and his NFT and his meme stocks and his stonks and his GameStop, right? And his leg breaking. If China was going that direction, they wouldn't be, I don't know, banning wealth worship, celebrating of excessive monetary and lifestyle, and making fun of poor people. They literally have banned shaming the poor in the Chinese TikTok. Now they had to cut deals with America because America was either that or America was going to commit more horrible economic and hybrid warfare. Now American TikTok is all fucked up. There's a lot more indigenous representation before, and disabled and people and women, and the shaming. The shaming has gone way up, and the wealth worship has gone way up since the Chinese lost control of the. They had to give over control to the U.S. under Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, who, by the way, owns $330 million worth of stolen Hawaii called Lanai. He's the guy who runs the American TikTok. So, and he's a friend of Donald Trump, which makes sense why it's much more misogynist, much more racist, much more fucked up. Since America said, you got to give us a piece of this. Otherwise, how are we supposed to manipulate our masses of population through social media that we control? But they wouldn't, but it's wealth work. Like, people were like fanning out $100 bills. They were saying, look at this Porsche. You know, this commercials, like, look at this Porsche. Look at all the Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, all these, buy my book. Let me tell you how to be strong, cut, rich, alpha male, and also have lots of money and cars, right? All of this wealth worship shit is like literally banned. You can't do that. If you do that kind of thing where you promotes gross celebrity worship, wealth worship, that kind of stuff, you get your account whacked. And they've done 2,000 accounts. If you shame the poor, if you take pictures of homeless people, I have friends in Honolulu that still go around the town, take pictures of homeless people and laugh and go, look at how poor this Micronesian is. Oh, Micro Mart. Look at these insects. You know, this is the areas where I worked, in the homeless villages. If you do that in China, you get your account nuked. You can't do that. Because why? Because when you allow that to proliferate through a society, like allowing terrible military industrial complex and wealth worship movies like Iron Man to proliferate through a society, what does that produce? It produces capitalist drones who strive for their own selfish, greedy interests to the detriment of everyone around them, their celebrity, their fame, their money, and they stand their capitalist structure, which is what creates the hellscape and the ethnic, the cultural, the economic, and other forms of inequality that the United States and other hellscapes like it suffer from. So if you want to build, anyway, so this is a long story to say, and also Hi Mom is a film that is about it centers women. It's the second highest grossing film. I think it's the highest grossing film ever created by women. It was released on 12 February 2021, Chinese New Year. It grossed over $848 million at the box office. It is the highest grossing film of 2021. The second highest grossing non-English film of all time. And it is a film where a mother who was fatally injured in a car accident in 2001 and a grief-stricken Jia Shaoling finds herself transported back in time to 1981, where she becomes her mother's close friend. There, she feels that she has not been a good enough daughter in the present. So back in 1981, she does all that she can to make her daughter happy, or her mother happy. I'm sorry. including setting her up with a factory manager's son, Shen Guanglin, in the hopes of giving her mother a better husband and a better daughter and a better life than she had the first time around. So again, this is a film that, and from what I've heard about, I haven't seen it, but from everything that I understand of it, it's a film that is about trying to help other people, have a better life, and recognizing your own privileges, right? As opposed to United States, which is what? Banning the teaching of critical race theory which is just nobody in America that wants to ban critical race theory understands what critical race theory is. A. B. They don't really want to ban whatever that is. They don't even know what it is. What they want to ban in America is teaching of racial inequity and the realities of it, and white privilege, right? It's basically banning history and banning what America needs to make itself not racist and not unequal economically and racially, right? Which are tied together in racialized capitalism. And so here, this is a story about learning about your privileges and trying to help make your more underprivileged, because China has suffered. There's a country that was at the bottom of the barrel, near the bottom of poverty, life expectancy, all these things, right? Because of why? Because of the history of colonization of China by the United States, which built the greatest fortunes of America. I would argue the majority of the wealth of America, the biggest fortunes, were built on and by Chinese slave labor and Chinese stolen wealth, Chinese stolen summer palaces, their silk, their linen, their cotton, with opium and heroin just dumped into their mouths and forced, and then they slaughtered Chinese when they didn't want to take it. The British in particular, but America all participated in this, the Delano Roosevelts. And because of that history of American and Western colonialism, of the Asian and Chinese in particular, they had been in poverty. And this is a story about understanding your privilege as being born in China in the 2000s, in the 20 teens, when things are much better than your parents. It's trying to reinstill socialist values of caring for all people, understanding economic inequality, understanding class, understanding your privilege in life, when America is trying to do what? What is America doing on Juneteenth, right? What is America doing? Banning critical race theory, right? What is America doing? Trying to ban the understanding of privilege. China is the highest selling movie is trying to help people understand even like the less privilege that they have, even in China, relative to somewhere like the United States. But the Chinese that are now the highest grossing films in the world are about trying to understand your privilege, understand what you should be thankful for, understand the hardships of other people that have suffered much greater than you for your benefit, so as to not become a spoiled capitalist gold diapered baby going, communism will be solved if we have AI, and I'm like Grimes, I'm dating the richest man on the planet. I have like this beautiful career, and my mommy is literal the prosecutor for the Empire of Canada, who imprisons indigenous people, takes their land, and gives it to fossil fuel companies to drill. And my daddy is a fucking French banker from fucking French Canada, and he has billions of dollars that my mommy stole on the colonial blood money. And I'm sitting on my fucking piles of dead indigenous and global South stolen blood fucking money as a Canadian fucking aristocrat. I'm Grimes. Farming is so not a vibe. Communism will happen when my baby daddy makes awesome AIs that he can't make because he's an ass clown and he doesn't know how to fucking program anything. Anyways, he doesn't understand that the sun isn't gonna go fucking red giant in 500 million years. It's 5 billion, you fucking ass clown. Also, COVID wasn't gone in April 2020. Elon Musk, wrong again. Also, I got DMCA'd off of Twitter because I called him out on his bullshit, so that was fun. Is critical race theory a way of understanding how American racism has been? So, if Grimes understood critical race theory and understood what communism is, then you might, along with millions and hundreds of millions of other fucking white people in Canada and America, you might be on a path. But no, what is America and the West trying to do now? Stop the understanding of how racism has shaped public policy. They're trying to stop people from understanding, right, the enslavement of Black Americans, right? They're trying to stop people from understanding white privilege and the wealth on the backs of all the oppressed people whose fortunes, whose whatever. Not everybody's rich in America that's white necessarily, but your position relative to black people, relative to the rest of the world, if you have any, that's built on the backs of racialized capitalism, slavery, and all these systems. And it's basically just history, right? But again, America can never teach history. So, half of the states of the United States have tried to ban it. And what is China doing? Literally, not in just their education system, because guess what? They also learn about Marx, they learn about colonization, they learn that history. But what do they also learn in China? And, they also, through their movies, they learn, hey, you know what's important? Respecting the toil and the hardship of other people that were less well off than you, and being thankful for that, and then you yourself participating in helping provide from your ability to need, right? So if you are privileged, again, that's what My People, My Homeland is about. If you have the privilege of being from a family that had a successful restaurant, or maybe your dad was a manager at an Apple phone store, you have the privilege to go to a nice university in Beijing, in Hong Kong, Shanghai, in Harvard, in Yale, in the U.S. Now you come back, right? Now what are you gonna do with your privilege? So My People, My Homeland is saying, don't become a Silicon Valley billionaire like Elon Musk or Robert Downey. It's saying, don't become a arms dealer for the United States military like Elon Musk, like Iron Man, Robert Downey. Don't be a fucking playboy, and don't be a fake philanthropist, because Elon Musk doesn't do any philanthropy. He donates 2 sleep apnea machines and pretends like he solved COVID. He donates like 100 water bottles to Flint, pretends like he solves the Flint water crisis. Don't be a fake philanthropist, an arms dealer for the planetary exterminatory empire. Don't be a billionaire. My People, My Homeland says, take your privilege as the inheritors of the wealth of the labor, the toil from the revolution of Mao, the throwing off of colonial chains in so many ways, the fights against international imperial capitalism, and the sacrifice that had to be made never perfectly, with many errors and many mistakes, in a country that has alleviated 3/4 of all the people that have ever been alleviated from poverty, the greatest success story in the history of the human species. Don't just take the applause like a Joe Biden, right? Don't just take the applause like a Joe Biden and expect, because I gave 80 vials. Don't just take the applause and then with the wealth that has been given to you as a inheritor of some money in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Hong Kong, in the places that have historically, in Taiwan, in the places that America and the colonial capitalist racist roots have set their deepest seeds and sown. There are some reactionaries in these places that are Chinese as well. But don't take that wealth that you sit upon, right, and that history of toil and work to throw off those chains, and then be an Elon Musk. Don't be a Chinese Elon Musk. Don't be a Chinese Iron Man. Don't be a Chinese Batman. Batman is a billionaire crime manufacturer. The crime that he manufactures is all of the politicians and the corporate theft of wage labor that he does as a billionaire as a New York corporate head. Don't be a Batman criminal pretending to solve crimes like Elon Musk, right? When Batman punches 2 criminals but makes 1,000, it's like Elon Musk giving 2 sleep apnea machines and pretending like he's solving a crisis when he's breaking all the legs of all of his union members and backing the coups in Bolivia. Elon, we will coup whoever we want, right? Elon is Batman and he is Iron Man. Don't be Batman. Don't be Iron Man. Don't be Falcon working for the U.S. military. Don't be the Winter Soldier working with Falcon for the U.S. military. Don't be John Wayne. Don't be a cop. Don't be fucking LAPD. Don't be Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Don't be a funny cop. Don't be a Jewish or a black or a woman or a black gay or a Hispanic funny cop. Don't be a cop. Don't be fucking sitting on that wealth. Don't be a Kardashian. Don't be a fucking MTV's Cribs. Don't be any of the celebrities that are worshipped. Don't do any of that. Take your privilege that you have because of the sacrifices of the Chinese people through Marxist-Leninism, through socialism, against the United States that continues to make movies about you like Red Dawn, right? Like Red Dawn, which was a movie about how the Chinese communists are going to destroy white capitalist imperial America. Don't become America. Don't become a Western capitalist, right? Don't become that. Take the privilege and the wealth that has been accrued to you, right, on the poverty alleviation and participate. The most important thing you can do, right, is participate in the continued support of the peoples of your homeland and of the world. The most important thing that you can do is take that money and that privilege that you have and go to the poorest rural area, go to the poorest mountainous area, go to the areas that have the least with the education and what you have, and give all that you can to alleviate their poverty. That's the most important thing that you can do. That's why Xi Jinping, who is from a very poor area, he failed the test to get in to become the to enter the party like 10 times. That's why he's there. Who constantly cites Marxism, Leninism? What is America talking about Marxism? You know what America is speaking about Marxism? This is America talking about Marxism. Marco Rubio. Marxism divides people into either oppressors or victims, calls for the overthrow of an evil system, and then seizes complete power in the name of fairness. Old Marxism used class warfare to divide people. New Marxism uses identity politics. The goal is the same. This is what's trending in America on Marxism. That's Marxism to America, right? There will never be socialism or socialist revolution anywhere in the West. The West will crumble into a pile of star-spangled Greco-Roman fluted columns. And I'm not being metaphorical there. I mean the Greco-Roman fluted columns upon the fake democracy and equality of the capital of the United States. The building is Greco-Roman, and it will crumble to dust before there is a revolution in the United States. Rome never had a revolution. Britain never had a revolution. France never had a revolution. The Spanish conquistadors never rose up and overthrew the oppressors because they were the oppressors. America will never have a revolution. America will crumble to dust. It will be a fine mist of ash, wildfire ash, and fucking opioid overdose nurses before there's a revolution in America. There will never be a revolution in America. China and the East will win, not by violence, just by helping people better and not being a fucking liar and an asshole and a gaslighter. The only innovation that has ever come out of the entire Western world, right? The space stolen from black women's labor. A lot of the mathematics stolen from black, African, and Arab algebra itself, stolen from their labor, from their inventions. Paper stolen from China that invented it 1,000 years before America, before any Bible or Aquinas or any great philosopher or thinker from the Enlightenment and before was ever published. They had all of these things. The only thing the West ever invented was how to know absolutely nothing about a subject, whether that's communism like Marco Rubio, whether that's equality and human rights like Mr. Biden talking about human rights, whether that's a rules-based order like Mr. Blinken. The only thing the West ever figured out is how to talk about those things, Marxism, human rights, rules, equality, and democracy, as though you know anything about them. Or if you forget the history, American opens his mouth, you're like taking a shit on every historical fact that's ever been realized. The only thing they ever invented is how to talk about these things as though they are the experts, as though they know absolutely everything about these subjects, like Marco Rubio, opening his fucking Gusano capitalist slave driving ass face all over the internet, representing America. He is a representative. He's a beautiful. He is America. Marco. He is. He's the perfect American, right? That is America. Opening your mouth, knowing absolutely nothing about what you speak, saying abject lies or disinformation, knowingly or unknowingly, with absolute confidence, right? That's why Hollywood comes out of America, because Hollywood is just lying for money. It's fiction, right? It's very confidently realized, believable fiction, but it's all fiction, right? Like police solve crimes, solve rapes, right? Like the U.S. military goes around the world and solves problems, like all of the U.S. like G.I. Joe and Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, and all that the West knows. The invention is maximum lying and maximum violence, and then hiding the violence and the death and the dead bodies. They didn't invent. You look back through history. It's basically nothing that's ever come out of the entire Western world, because they're too busy spending every waking synaptic firing and neuron on how to craft more lies. Like Wall Street is just light speed. They position the servers in New Jersey and then closer and closer to the New York Stock Exchange using like microwave beaming. They drill holes through mountains, right? Cutting holes through not just the six grandfathers and mountains like Mauna Kea. They drill holes through mountains so they can beam microwaves faster and faster, so they can like high-speed lie through high-frequency trading in Wall Street, ripping off millions of people's houses. It's like Wall Street is just high-speed digital lying about the valuations of, I don't know, all of the commercial real estate in downtown Manhattan. Lying about the valuation of a McMansion in Florida with a waitress at Applebee's given $1.5 million with no income, no jobs, and no assets to qualify for a house that costs $12,000 a month in a mortgage, right? It's high-frequency lying. That's the only innovation that America has made in its computer revolution. Much of that done by communists, right? The open source, and then they take, well, let's use all this to, I don't know, rip the entire world off at light speed. That's the only thing that's ever come out of the entire Western world, is how to like destroy, harm, kill for profit faster and faster and faster, and lie harder and stupider, like Marco Rubio is doing right here. Anyways, so, you know, this is not, I didn't talk about everything I wanted to talk about Riddic, but in the last moment, but this is why Riddic is the only, like, one of the handful of actually honest films that has ever come out of anywhere in Hollywood and anywhere in the West, generally speaking. Because it tells the truth. It's the only one of the few Hollywood films that tells the truth about police. And not in the storyline, you know, X-Files, wittier dialogue, intellectual delving into the eldritch recesses of the U.S. government and its secret projects and, MK Ultra bullshit, but that's not really what matters. That's all a sideshow for what? The FBI do something other than track down the left, crush black movements, and secure the empire, right? LAPD is what doesn't matter what the characters are doing, how the cop's relationship with his wife is, and all these things. If it was realistic, 80% of cops are harm their wives, domestic abusers. So I mean, but they don't show that, right? If you do, it's the bad cop. But Riddic is like, all the cops in Riddic are fucking terrible. And the whiter and the coppier they are, like this guy, the more terribler they are, right? And so that's why Riddic, the series, Riddic, Escape from Butcher's Bay, Riddick, Chronicles of Riddick, Pitch Black, etc., to my mind, are basically better than every other. Blade Runner actually, if you go back and look at Blade Runner does have it has problematic anti-Asian, Asiatic stereotypes and all kind of bullshit about yellow peril, red scare bullshit going on there as well. But especially the yellow peril, particularly against Japan in the time in which it was created. But sadly, it does center the cop, and then you don't find out till the end that the cop was bad. But you're still kind of rooting for the cop at the end. So I'll take that back. Riddick is much better because Rick Deckard, at the end, you figure out, oh God, this guy, he's actually a slave catcher, right? Because, Roy Batty's like, the replicants are the slave class, which is who? The people of color and the poor, but mostly the people of color, mostly the black people that are being rounded up. But, okay, Blade Runner is like, well, let's have white people stand in for the black people, right? That's, unfortunately, a lot of science fiction does that too much because it's like, well, let's just handhold all of our white racist people who have the middle class disposable income to buy our movies and our games and our TTRPGs, right? But Riddick is, it's coded in the way that it is what it is. This guy's a fucking cop. Now it gets around it by calling him a merc in the beginning, and you when you first watch it, you think, oh, he's a straight shooting white guy in a uniform. He's like, he must be a good cop, just like I watched on all my TV shows and all my movies, right? Just like Speed, right? With the police. What is Speed? It's Keanu Reeves playing a cop, as though cops are like putting their lives on the line all the time to save all these innocent people, as opposed to, I don't know, LAPD locking up black people with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's fucking crime bill. Speed is amazing propaganda. So, it's amazing. Like, wow, cops are really they're getting themselves killed 12 different ways just to save a handful of people on a bus, a bunch of black people on a bus. The last time I seen a black, black working class people get saved by LAPD, I've never seen that. I haven't been to LA a lot. It is a disgusting shithole with a fucking diarrhea-looking skyline, but generally speaking, that's not what LAPD does. LAPD's job is to beat the shit out of the people of color, beat the faces of homeless people, to mass incarcerate, and crowd out and cause typhus deaths of people in Skid Row, and evict people out of their houses so that Californian landlords and wealth hoarders and housing hoarders can have more and more money, off the backs of all the starving, homeless, poor working class who can't afford their fucking rents. That's what LAPD does. LAPD for enforces capital, white supremacy in the prison industrial complex, right? And so that's where Riddic really exceeds. And to specifically this game, right? So in Butcher's Bay, you have Johns holding a gun, and in the film Riddick, in the film Pitch Black, the whole movie is basically a white John Wayne, white coated, cowboy coated, cop coated guy holding a gun on a person of color in chains for most of the whole movie, beating on him. As I talked about before, another important scene. There's a scene where there's a scene where Riddick is being sold to the prison. John Toxie Riddick. There's a scene where this one right here, where Riddick is being, the cop is bargaining with the plantation owner, who's who, the warden, or the owner of the warden who works with who, the company that is using Riddick and other criminals, right? All the slaves for what? It's a mining colony. So in this scene, you have the carceral, prison, industrial, modern slavery, colonial complex played out. The white cop with another white, richer guy who owns the plantation, the prison, bargaining, and Johns is saying, I want Riddick plus 50. I want 50,000, right? And the guy is saying, no. Riddick is the problem. I'm only giving you 30. They're literally bargaining over the piece of meat. That is, how much is this black person worth in this slave plantation? So you have the white cop catching black slaves, right, or non-white slaves or marginalized slaves, to sell to the guy who runs a prison labor colony, also known as slavery, and bargaining over the price of the piece of human meat, the slave. And it's really important. Like, this scene happens out, and it happens in the way that it's coded. You got a guy in a tank top, criminal coded. Tank tops is criminals. You got a tank top, you dominant, you're standing in front of a car, you're a criminal, you're a bad guy. You got a hoodie. Riddick sometimes wears hoodies. He has dreadlocks. You don't have a nice uniform. You're not wearing like a general uniform. You're not wearing a Euro-coded uniform. I don't care. Roman, Greco-Roman, United States uniform. Now if you have a gray with a red helmet and you're a little too effeminate, that means you're a communist and you're evil. But if you're a U.S. military, Euro military, 2,000-year-old Greek military-coded white guy, you're a good guy. If you're a white cop with a blue, if you're a white guy in blue, you're good. You're a good guy. You got a nice gold badge, right? And this scene, and you got the other behind. You see these two guys behind them. You see another paid cop. Well, it's a mercenary, but that's the whole point of Riddick is some of the mercenaries are dressed up like this, right? Some of the mercenaries are well, I lost it. Some of the mercenaries are dressed up like Dave Bautista. Oh, now you're bad. You see, because you're Latino. You're like a drug lord. You're criminal. You're the bad people with guns. You're the bad. You know why? Because you're brown. Why? You're with brown. You're wearing brown. You look like you might be fighting with Che. That means you're evil. You're probably a communist and a drug dealer, just like Evo Morales, communist, drug dealer, right? Try to find the news article. Yeah. Even Morales made Bolivia narco state, right? You're a brown Hispanic drug dealer. Watch a Netflix series that centers Hispanic Central South Americans that isn't about them being fucking drug dealers, right? Morales made Bolivia a narco state. How many Mexicans? The guy who's leading an indigenous resistance for the greatest liberation and the greatest economy under socialism and indigenous leadership, the MAS party. Evo Morales, right? What was the West talking about Evo, right? They're using Hollywood, Netflix, narratives and cinematic eugenics, cinematic imperialism, right? To crush an indigenous-led. This is Evo Morales. Returns the party to power after the coup for Elon Musk. For real-world Iron Man's coup backed by the U.S. military and the Wall Street Journal, calling, okay, what do they call him, right? Narco state, narco trafficking Hispanic. How do they justify what does America? What does the average American or average Westerner know about Bolivia? That's somewhere in South America. What do they know about South America? There are a bunch of narcos, right? You know, what does the average American know about South America, right? That they're a bunch of fucking narcos, right? What's all the shows about? What's all the show? That's why people didn't like Terminator Dark Fate, because Terminator Dark Fate challenges this narrative that everyone from South America is a cocaine drug dealer, they're fucking murderous cartel manager, there's somebody, or there's some communist person who starved their country and his authoritarian regime with a bunch of thugs with AK-47s, right? The thugs that are wearing this uniform, right? This is the bad uniform. This is the bad uniform, right? These are the bad narco-trafficking, communist, Marxist, Leninist. What is Marxism? I don't know. Ask Gusano Cuban fucking, with families had fucking slaves, Marco Rubio. Ask them what's a Marxism, right? Ask your disinformed, dumbass American leaders what your Marxism is. But if you come from South Central America, this is you. Again, Hollywood is cinematic eugenics. And nobody reads any fucking books in America, really, not really. If they do, they're gaslighting. Even people with advanced degrees, not even in America, even in China, go, oh, America won World War II. How do you know that? Well, it's in all the movies. Even in China, right? So American movies are cinematic history, cinematic. The best form of diseducation on planet Earth is to just make a bunch of movies and then cast everybody who is brown as a fucking drug dealer and a criminal. And Marxism is when you start dealing drugs and killing people for no reason. Right? And then all you got to do is just throw that on a screen and, oh yeah, that's a drug. There's a bunch of Mexican cartel. That's a cartel. Like it's literally the wardrobe department. It's one of the most criminal departments in Hollywood, right? Oh, what am I gonna here? Put on this red star. That means you're fucking evil communists that are coming to kill all of America, right? Like Red Dawn, right? Like Red Dawn. Here, put on this hat. Let me put you in a gray uniform, and then you put you in a gray military uniform, right? Like Red Dawn, right? Gray military uniform, Asian eyes, evil, right? Evil, North Korea, evil. Gray communist coded, evil. This is why Star Wars is a failure, because America read it as communism was the empire. Evil. Coming for Chris Hemsworth. Don't kill Thor. He surfs so good. He's a mediocre white actor. Don't kill my favorite multimillionaire mediocre white actor. Oh, the evil Asian communist. You put somebody in a military uniform that's gray or just Asian, you put red behind them, evil. Bad things come from there. Authoritarian regime. Oh, everybody, look at all the guns. They got guns. America has more guns than any other fucking country in the world per capita. 1.21 guns. 1.21 jigger guns worth of bullets coming out of the shells, slaughtering everyone in the streets and across the world. But somebody with an Asian person with a fucking red behind them and a gun, evil. Oh my god. Brown people with a gun. Look at Dave Bautista. He has a scary goatee. Oh my god, he's in tatters. If they're white and they're in like Las Vegas, maybe they're like cool survivor dude. But no, who is this? It's a bunch of narcos. Oh my god, they're coming for my wife. They're gonna murder and rape everyone in suburban Georgia. Oh my god, all the white people in Kansas should run away and vote for Trump because the Mexicans are coming for you. They got the drug dealers. And this is cinematic eugenics. This is the real education of the world, right? You just show a picture of that, and it's like boom. That's why, movies like Riddic and Dark Fate, Terminator Dark Fate. Nobody reads any fucking books, and nobody cares about history in the United States. Didn't you figure that out? That's why Marco Rubio can say that kind of shit. That's how Donald Trump can get elected. It's a ahistorical. Luna Oi, a Vietnamese woman. Just an average Vietnamese woman that has a better education than every American is out there owning every American and Westerner and French and fucking Swedish people and Germans with fucking PhDs, owning them left and right all day long. Because why? Because nobody actually reads and cares about books that actually fucking matter. They read fucking they can read like New York Times bestsellers about some fucking white upper middle class woman's heart wrenching experiences in prison in Orange is the New fucking Black, but they sure as fuck don't know shit about the narcos in Bolivia. They don't know shit about anything when it comes to things that matter, like the rest of the goddamn world's resistance to the global imperialism, right? Terminator Dark Fate was hated because America is a racist country that wants to see Hispanic narcos come up and fucking kill Americans so that they can have a good, strong white man with a gun kill all the Mexicans. That's why they don't like Dark Fate. Because it doesn't cater to the interests. Half of this movie takes place in Mexico and humanizes a Mexican woman who struggles with her friends and family against oppressive, unfair labor practices in the maquiladoras, in the manufacturing plants that they have. This movie is so fucking underrated. It's because America is a racist capitalist country, including a lot of its left. And the racism and the capitalism is cinematically, it's cinematically, eugenically, baked into the mind, into the psyche of every American, And they don't want to see that. They don't want to see that. They don't want to listen to Spanish. They can't hear, why you speak American? You're making, it's not American. It's a movie that's made in Hollywood, but it's going to be fucking played across the goddamn world. Speak American. Why don't you speak fucking Spanish? Why don't you learn someone else? Why don't you learn Hawaiian in Hawaii? Huh? Why you gotta ban Hawaiian in Hawaii? You speak English. You're in America. That's what I've heard that in Hawaii. Fuck you. No, people hate Dark Fate because it counters the narrative of Narcos, of all the best-selling Netflix original series, of all these amazing movies about how everyone in South Central America is a fucking drug dealer, as opposed to, I don't know, all the white CIA that are the actual drug dealers. And white people take more drugs than all the people of color on average, but they don't go to prison for it. Anyways, so this really matters. Evil Chinese communist, evil Latin American drug dealer communist, right? Evil Chinese communists biting the heads off of bats and then spewing their Wuhan into my children's mouth. Evil South American communist drug dealer coming to slaughter all of my nice white mansion having family and all this help. I mean, how do you square that circle? You're a bunch of fucking white New Yorkers with all your Hispanic help laughing about it in the movies like Tallulah. That was a Netflix original series created by this movie, Netflix. It was a movie about white people basically having fucking Hispanic and black and people of color slaves and having a hard time dealing with their gallivanting around the world while pretending to be homeless. So like when you're a rich liberal New Yorker with fucking Hispanic slaves and literally writing New York op-eds about how awesome it was to have a Filipino literal slave, and then and I loved her so much. It's so sad that literally New Yorkers with Filipino slaves, right? And like there's New Yorker who wrote an entire op-ed about how it's so great to have a Filipino slave. How do you fucking square that with like, and then in South America it's terrible because they're all narco traffickers and they have forced labor in China. You have fucking forced labor in your Filipino slave inside of your New York fucking WASP mansion. What are you talking about? All your prisons are forced labor. You don't even have evidence of the forced labor in China. You're talking about forced labor all day anyway. But again, that's why I say the only innovation that's ever come out of the entire Western world is how to convincingly lie about ultra violence and death and destruction, forced labor, slavery that you've done, right? Through movies, through TV shows, just opening your mouth on a camera, on C-SPAN, on CNN, on Davos, in a G7 meeting, right? Opening your face, filming in front of a camera, writing it into a book, writing it into a New York Times bestseller, like some piece of garbage that Paul Krugman put out this year. To fucking manufacture consent for multi-quadrillion dollars worth of central bank quantitative easing and infinity problems, quantitative easing infinity policies that will enable another $6 trillion to be printed and gifted to billionaires and corporations and the banker class for ad infinitum until there's no America left. So America's economists lie, America's politicians lie. All they can do is fucking make shit up as if they know what the fuck they're talking about. Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve in the mid-2010s, said, America has entered the great moderation in which there will never be a collapse again. The important thing about that was the confidence with which Ben Bernanke said that sentence. America has entered a phase of, he wrote an entire white paper about this. That's how he came to be the chairman. The most powerful economists in the planet Earth, the chairman of the United States Federal Reserve, wrote a paper about how America will never have a housing crash ever again. Through the Sigma 6 analysis of the risks, through the Gaussian copula curve and these advanced portfolio management schemes and mean value theory, all these other fucking people that got PhDs, very advanced degrees in economics. All of the university system in the West is a complete joke. Adrian Zen's got a degree from them. And then they get these economics degrees, and then he literally said there will never be another crash in capitalism. We have created a balanced equilibrium throughout the economic structure of global capitalism, with the United States at the helm, and with banks like mine, the New York Fed, anyways. And it was a total complete abject. Either he is a complete, again, what is it? Bernanke had absolutely no understanding of what the fuck he was speaking, as was illustrated by one of the greatest collapses of capitalism happening shortly thereafter, 2007, 8, and then 9, the huge global economic meltdown. But he said that with absolute confidence, kind of like Obama saying with absolute confidence, and Daniel Dumbro pointed this out. Obama, I don't want to get this stream taken down, but Daniel Dumbro came out, Obama came out in the middle of these horrendous wars, bombing 10 times more with drones than the white Republican president before him as a black, we care Democrat. Obama came out and said to the cameras, again, Obama is the most Oreo-ass black person I've ever seen because he has the capacity to lie like a white man, confidently, while killing his own people. That's what makes it. The black people who fucking Oreo themselves into white warmongers like Obama are the most incredible because they have the capacity to hurt and kill and slaughter their own people with their words and backing these wars, backing the prison industrial complex, as Obama did, as Kamala does, while knowing that they're like killing their own people. I think for the black, I think they are more just like have deep brain compartmentalization where they can get like PhDs and law degrees from Harvard, but they don't understand jack shit about, I don't know, critical race theory or the history of America, the actual one. And so I don't know how the fuck Obama managed to, but Obama literally said this in this speech here. I'm not gonna play it, but he said in this speech, in his presidency, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Watch watcher. I was gonna say Human Rights Watch, but he said in this speech, let me get the actual quote. He said that he said, part of what makes us special as Americans is unlike the old empires, we don't make these sacrifices for territory or for resources. We do it because it's right. Obama literally, he said that to applause in that speech. We don't fight in Iraq for territory or money. We don't bomb in Afghanistan for territory or money. We do it because it's right. So again, Obama became president because he is able to understand absolutely nothing or understand and then lie convincingly about what he speaks, right? Which is the US, its empire, and its military. And lie, and that's Hollywood, right? It's called acting, right? That's acting, as Patrick Stewart would say, right? As Taika Waititi would say, it's just saying confidently things that you don't necessarily believe. He is president because he could get up on that stage and say that sentence, either unknowing, either being oblivious or being evil, one or the other. Oblivious to it, and just completely ignorant. It's always some combination of stupid. It's kakistocracy, ruled by the most uneducated, the most idiotic, and the most malicious. Some combination of the two. So you can get up on that stage and say those completely wrong words with absolute confidence, inspiring the confidence of all the people that are gonna go kill for evil, saying that we're doing it for right? And anyway, so that's where, Obama, he's a black guy from Hawaii. I know where he went to school. I went to school across from the school. The school that he went to school to and the one that I went to school to are Emperor Palpatine training facilities. That's why he became Emperor Palpatine. He is the real world Moff Gideon, He's a black or black passing leader of a fucking empire. That's Obama, right? And I know. That's why I say it's the Emperor Palpatine training institute. They train Obama. They train him really well. Hawaii is the most Democrat. Hawaii is the most successful imperial American state of all the United States. That's why the Indo-Pacific Command is here. I bring this up a lot. That's why Obama comes out of Hawaii. He has one of the most horrific, most competent imperialist, most competent fascist, most competent capitalist training facilities in the world. It's called Punahou School. Disgusting. Actually, all the private schools in Hawaii. Disgusting. Horrible plantation schools. Abolish all the private schools in Hawaii. It's all plantation ass, slave driving, slave owner schools. Like, I don't know, the owners of Dole, Thurston, and all the fortunes that were built on the back of Hawaiian and Chinese labor that the Punahou elites incinerated. So thanks a lot, Punahou owners who incinerated my Chinatown parents, and family, along with all of our businesses and houses in the controlled burning that you set. White and wealthy people set fires to the Hawaiian and Chinese area of Chinatown, burning tens of thousands of people's homes and businesses, and then drove us into the fire and killed us all. So thanks a lot, Obama's alma mater, for incinerating Hawaiian and Chinese people. That's why I say they're very competent, because nobody knows what I just said. Even I didn't know that, right? And I've been looking into speaking about and talking about the crimes of empire and the white supremacy for so long in Hawaii. I only just recently figured that out. So thanks a lot, Obama's alma mater, Punahou, and all the private white schools, disproportionately white, disproportionately rich, who incinerated Hawaiian and Chinese cooperative socialist-backed wealth. Thanks a lot. And it only makes sense why he came out of that school, because it trains the best, most competent American Westerners in the world. So it's so sad. I don't want to house these fucking war criminals anymore. I wish the U.S. military would go home, as President Grover Cleveland and Bill Clinton admitted illegal occupation. I wish the Emperor Palpatine training facilities of these fucking private schools and all these Pierre Omidyar, Larry Ellison, I wish they would all the billionaires in the military would go the fuck home. But they do not. They will not. The Chinese will. America will not be blown up or anything like that. The Chinese will outplay the United States and win. And one day, the Hawaiian and Chinese, as we did in the 1800s, will live with equal citizens of Asian, African, and Hawaiian descent. We will live in mutual cooperatives called hui, as we did. And America will be a sad, disgusting story in some ebook somewhere. But for now, get the fuck out of here as soon as possible. Anyways, so you know, that you know, I only recently discovered that one. So, but that's anyway. I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but I really recommend you play. I gotta get off because I gotta go stream somewhere later on. I know I feel like I've been streaming for 3 hours, but it's been almost 3 hours. Riddic, I really recommend you check it out and play it. I played all the way through Chronicles of Riddic, Escape from Butcher Bay. If you get a chance to, check out The Iron Mask, another Chinese movie about the history of colonialism. That's honest about colonialism. Also, as I brought up before, I know I brought it up before, but also, like Riddic, you know, based Vin Diesel, person of color from fucking the ghettos of New York, and based China from the fucking international ghetto of, I don't know, all of the non-Western, non-white world. The Iron Mask is a show, and the main two characters is who? Now in Riddic, it's a British cop. In Riddic, it is a white American coded cop. In the Iron Mask, it's Jackie Chan. In Iron Mask, it's Jackie Chan. Can I get this thing started? I'm trying. It's Jackie Chan in chains. It's a Chinese person in chains, like Riddic in chains, right? Riddic in 2014 spends most of his time in chains as a symbol of colonialism, as a symbol of slavery, as a symbol of the coolies, slavery, plantation, near slavery, impoverishment, wealth extraction, imperialism, in which Indian Marxist-Leninists, Indian communists economists have argued capitalism was born and cannot exist without an imperialism, without a colony external to the country that it's working on. And it's true. America and the West have never existed without an external colony. There's internal capitalism that reduces labor value for the white and the citizen working class, the white working classes of their countries, relative to the billionaire and the millionaire classes. But the greatest oppression and the real wealth is built on the exploitation of the colonies. Particularly, sometimes the internal colony, the global South's wealth, the American South's wealth, the antebellum South's wealth, the Mississippi, the Carolinian fortunes built on the backs of internally colonized black slaves, and the British wealth built on colonization externally of Africa and of China. Eastern wealth of the United States, Astor, again, Harvard, the Delano Roosevelt poors, all these peoples. These fortunes, the East Coast was built on external colonies of China. This is why the North was okay with banning slavery. Not because they care about black people or they don't think of black people as subhuman and inferior. The North got rid of slavery because the Southern wealth was built on, the Southern capitalism was built on the black internal colony. The South couldn't banish Asian, because the South couldn't reach China where East's colonies were. The Eastern New Yorkers, the Maine, the Bostonian rich white men's colonies, right? LARPing Iroquois with their constitutions that they stole. But the Yankee colonies were in Asia, right? But America internally that's what the Civil War is about. It was about stopping the Southern wealth from breaking away, trying to form its own little. As the America broke away from Britain, not because America fought a revolution to liberate all peoples of the world and of America. No, it's because the Americans wanted their own little feudal kingdoms, and then the South, like the North, like America breaking from Britain, the South wanted to break from the North to form its own kingdoms, and the North said, no, you're going to be subservient. So it's all interfeudal. But at the bottom of every capitalism, at the bottom of every, I would argue every Western structure, from Greeks to the Romans on onward, requires people in chains, people at the bottom doing the absolute most difficult, most dangerous, and lowest paid work. And that's who? The Chinese in Asia for the British and Americans. That's the black in America for the Southern wealth. And the Iron Mask accurately depicts the British white guy played by Arnold. So again, it's an action comedy. So what's the story about? It's action comedy, kung fu moves, and Arnold like punching and kicking and making one-liners. It's very funny. Jackie Chan and Arnold do the comedy is like it's one of the most funny action comedies I've seen in a long time. And so but that's again, that's the story. That's not the real. That's the story. That's a synopsis. That's what ostensibly is about. What it's really about is what is normalized in the world, and what is normalized in the world is actual history of this colonization of the Chinese, right? Symbolized in the chains, and then literally you go to China and you see the stealing of the wealth, and the collaborators with the British who did work, some of them as Obama collaborates with his empire against his own African peoples, and so that's what Iron Mask. And I don't think it's a mistake that Iron Mask is a joint. It is Russian and Chinese working together, but a lot of Chinese, actual Chinese power, Chinese economic wealth, Chinese investment, Chinese, production houses worked on this. It's not just like, what's the difference between Iron Mask, right? The difference between Iron Mask and Kim's Convenience is what? What's the difference? A lot of Asian people in this one too. Iron Mask, Jackie Chan, Asians in this movie, right? Asian story. What's the difference between Kim's Convenience and Iron Mask, right? What do the Kim's Convenience people say about it? Kim's Convenience, racist storyline, right? The actors, what do they say, right? A lot of Asians in it as well. Well, what's the difference? Paul Sung-yi says, felt akin to grieving a death in the family. However, despite appearance of a happy, unified ensemble, actors claim that the Asian cast members struggled with disenfranchisement and alienation from the producers and the plot lines, a not uncommon assertion for Asians in North American entertainment. I mean, that's putting it very lightly. This is the LA Times, another imperial rag. It's another imperial news, imperial mouthpiece. This is like listening to the Star Destroyer open its face. Yoon, who stars as Uma, a wise, witty, sharp-tongued matriarch, wrote on Twitter, the series was painful. Some storylines overtly racist, right? Liu plays a heartthrob prodigal son, car rental employee, posted on Facebook, the show can't be saved. It was not canceled in the traditional manner by network after poor ratings. Our producers are the ones who chose not to continue. And he said that it was always my understanding that lead actors were the stewards of character and we would grow to have more creative insight. The Asian leads would have more creative insight as the show went on. This was not the case on our show, which was doubly confusing because our producers were overwhelmingly white and we were cast of Asian Canadians who had a plethora of lived experiences to draw from and offer to writers. So again, this is my point when I said, America, there will never be an indigenous Hollywood that will give you your actual stories. You will never have, you have to build your own like Bolivia, right? Indigenous is when you are a disempowered pet Indian living in the museum version of what we want you to live in our reservation. When you become empowered, like an indigenous person of Bolivia, under principled Marxist-Leninist empower, working with China, Evo Morales personally came out and thanked China, and Xi Jinping personally on his birthday, right, for being a comrade and supporting multilateralism and solidarity across the world, right? When you become empowered, you stop being indigenous, right? So why is this movie show about Asians not having having racist storylines, not being listened to, not getting the Asian story, even though the entire cast is Asian, they're being denied input into what to say. They're like, why do we have all these Asian stereotypes about the convenience store owner? Asian stereotypes about Asians in this and that way, right? The reason why is because this is what Jordan Peele's Get Out is about, which is a show about black people having white people go into their bodies. It's an invasion of the white colonizer body snatchers going into black bodies and acting white. This is what Hollywood is. Going into Anthony Mackie's body and going, look, Captain America's black now, even though 98% of the production team on Captain America and Marvel is white. That's Anthony Mackie's words. He said Black Panther, the only movie I ever seen, production team, writers, directors, the majority of people behind the scenes who construct the world of the movie and tell the people in the front what to do was black. Why is that? It's because in Atlanta and with things like Akon and some parts of the black Wall Streets where some amount of wealth has not been burned down like in Tulsa. Not unlike the Hawaiian and Chinese wealth that was burned down in Chinatown in Hawaii, where they killed us. And they didn't talk about it. That wealth that has survived, there is empowerment there where they can tell their own stories. Because why? Because they have the economics. You know, of course, it's the paradox is it takes some capital to fight against capitalism. This is why when people go, oh, Chinese has corporations and they have some money. That's not a thing that they want to have long term. And there are Hawaiians who run companies and they make some money. Some of them are much more problematic. But Silver Spoon Games is a cooperative, but we do need money to keep the fucking lights on. Thank you very much. And in order to have your indigenous stories told really in Hollywood, in order to have your black stories told, your Asian stories told in Canada filmmaking, in order to have your stories told, you need what? You need economic empowerment. And that's why often I come back to indigeneity is not just how we were in a hut in the 1700s. Indigeneity is just what that culture was. Cultures never freeze, and cultures that are described as frozen in a museum. The museum serves two functions. One, as a place to keep all the pillaged Summer Palace linen, china, and as a European poet said, all the greatest works and art of all of our cathedrals of Europe put together could not match what was stolen by the two thieves, France and Britain, from that city. One palace the size of a city, all of their great works and their art. Museums in the West are places to keep all the stolen goods. It's a bank vault like Switzerland for all the stolen blood money of the world. And museums are a place to keep indigenous peoples of the world, African indigenous peoples, Asian indigenous peoples like the Chinese, like the Vietnamese, Turtle Island indigenous peoples like the Sioux, the Lakota, the Algonquin, Pacific Island indigenous peoples like the Hawaiian, the Aotearoa, indigenous peoples like the people of Bolivia, who are leading an advanced socio-political and technological revolution and are making their own refined lithium. Because the Bolivians, right, wear suits like Arce, right? Because Evo Morales he's not wearing his traditional garb all the time. Because Evo Morales and indigenous Bolivians have STEM degrees and they are working on advanced lithium refinement and renewable battery technology, do they stop being Bolivians? In the mind of the West, they do. I'm waiting for them to be declassified, right? Because they cause a conundrum, right? Which is that this is why African and Asian societies do not get described as indigenous. China does not get described as indigenous because, well, they're evil and they're bad. And to the Western left, they're evil and they're capitalist and they're imperialist and they're bad. They can't be Vietnamese is an indigenous society. They have been there for thousands of years. They have not. They're not a settler colonial society. Indigeneity is defined against settler colonial. So I'm going to argue later on today that most of the world is indigenous. It's a matter of all of us recognizing it and getting out of the museum version of ourselves, the prison of the museum version of ourselves. And so that's why part of getting out of the museum version of ourselves is acknowledging that we cannot simply ask Canada to stop stomping on us. And I mean us, because Canada and 30 universities of Canada are backing the TMT massive mega project on Mauna Kea. We have to do more than that. We have to build, as there are Indigenous Canadians that are building their own banks, Indigenous Canadian universities, Indigenous Canadian, manufacturing, as the Bolivians are doing. I was just listening to the water protectors that are saying, one of my native brothers was working on one of these man camp pipelines, and it made me so sad, right? But he said, I have to provide for my family. If I don't work for this pipeline, I can't support my kids that have been taken from me, because Canada's a genocidal fucking factory. But you know, and so how am I going to you know, support the kids, my kids? You know, it was somebody, I think it was somebody who was on the Line 3 pipeline actions, involved in the stopping the CGL actions, and one of her own family members was working for the pipeline, right? But what are we gonna do when we don't have pipelines? And so part of it is, I mean, you don't have to do pipelines, but it's like we have to figure out other farming. We can do solar, and so they're talking. We're gonna make solar panels on our indigenous territory. We're gonna make solar water. We're gonna make other solar. We're also gonna do, you know, regenerative farming and other our historical ways of gathering and ricing the streams and such. But we also are gonna do technologically advanced renewable technology to counter the dirty colonizer Trudeau pipelines. Not Trudeau's pipelines specifically, but Canada, which backs the fossil fuel companies. And so this, so you know, part of it is fighting the structure, but then part of it is also building the economic power. Because then, when you have the revenue and the wealth from the indigenous technology, then you can have, for example, Ali Vargas. You can have Telesur telling your own narrative, right? Why rely on social media and a few nice colonizers to, oh, I feel so sorry for the indigenous people? Why not have your own platforms, right? To based on the wealth that you've made from what? From developing and modernizing in the cleanest way that you can, as Bolivia has done, and modernizing your economy in the cleanest way that you can. China again is very important, because it's, for many reasons, because it gives billions of dollars of loans to gifts to Cuba, to communist movements and left movements across Latin America and in Africa and across the world, and gives actual vaccines to inoculate huge swaths of the country in Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world, unlike the United States. But also because the Chinese serve as an example to South Central America and Africa of what you can be, and to, I would argue, indigenous peoples of so-called Canada. There's no reason why the Anishinaabe that are being crushed in residential schools, looking at their bones being dug up, having their people being shot by RCMP, dropped into wells, starlit rides to freeze to death at negative 55 degrees Celsius temperatures by cops in Canada. There's no reason why these indigenous peoples cannot follow in the pathway of Bolivia. And so I was glad to hear that they are following and trying to follow, and also work with China, because, you know, you have a vested interest. Canada is over there lobbying its fake genocide, war propaganda claims. All the indigenous peoples do have an incentive, and, you know, they're gonna. What is the worst they're gonna do? They're gonna call you a CCP shill. Red Road indigenous media collectives have already been labeled Russia state-affiliated media. What are they gonna do? Put CCP? All the people who use that kind of CCP shill bullshit are mostly like racist white people anyway, which I know it's most of the white world, but I mean, they ain't gonna help you anyway. All they're gonna do is like cry a little bit, take a picture on Instagram at your pipeline protest, and then leave. So fuck those people. Let them call you CCP show. Let them call you fucking tanky all day. Tanky is N-word with a silencer on it for white people to call people of color. That's what the word tanky is for. So let all the think tankies who actually fund giant tanks that crush the world, in reality, not in the fictional history that America and the West doesn't have. In reality, the tanks that are sold by Northrop Grumman, based on Adrian Zen's lies about Xinjiang, that we have to sell Australia and Japan and India and Canada and everyone else and Europe. UK just sent a fucking aircraft carrier that they spent money that they don't have, that should be stopping austerity deaths, people starving in the streets of Britain with like 2 carrots and a piece of a rotten potato. Like, you know, I'm just waiting for Jonathan Swift to come back from the grave and write, you know, Modest Proposal 2. Maybe all the Irish and the poor people in Hull and all the Uber drivers and all the Tesco's workers can just eat their children now, right? The children that they can barely afford to have. Modest Proposal 2. Eat your children, because the UK in the BBC is jacking up war propaganda, and COVID is a bioterror China weapon again. But it's okay because the Democrat did it. Trump did it, and it's bad. Now Biden can do it, and it's okay because he's a smart, genius brain Democrat, good man. Wuhan Bioterror Lab, and BBC is spending all of its money pumping out this garbage. Britain is backing America's bullshit, being the #1 liar in chief for America's military-industrial complex. And then we spent another $1 billion on a British aircraft carrier. So children of Hull, you know, all of you know, Charles Dickens' great-great-grandnieces that are still living in Dickensian shithole London, Eat your children, because Britain spent all of your children's milk and food and your tea and your biscuits money on a fucking aircraft carrier backed on fucking anti-China lies, because China actually stands against the global colonization process. So don't be afraid. All these fucking clowns in the Western media and all the blue check marks, and Marco Rubio is gonna call you a Marxist Leninist CCP shill that's causing critical race brain poisoning of all of our poor children, and we're all gonna be eating fucking, Cobra Commanders snakes and getting COVID from it that he's spewing out of his bioterror. I'm sure Marco Rubio is gonna say that about all the indigenous people. The indigenous people are a bunch of CCP shills all over Bolivia, because Evo Morales said Xi Jinping represents and China Castro, right? How do you feel about Cuba? Castro said China represents the greatest hope for the global South. Bolivia, thanks so much to Comrade Xi and Comrade Castro. Here, I have that one somewhere over here. Where did I put that one? Thanks so much to Comrade Xi from Bolivia, an indigenous socialist struggle. Thanks so much from socialist Cuba, right? Fuck, where the fuck did I put it? I lost it. But anyways, and so there's no reason why the indigenous peoples of all of the world cannot also, you don't have to be like, well, I'm just gonna like fucking build a statue of Xi and worship. No, that's not what it's about. It's about recognizing, here it is. China has objectively become the most promising hope. Where the fucking fuck? China has become the most. I have so much shit about just trying to debunk all of Western lies about China. I can't even keep track of it all. China has become, this is a picture of Xi Jinping and Castro. China has become the most promising hope and the best example for all third world countries. Fidel Castro. Comrade Fidel Castro will be remembered forever. That's Xi Jinping. Where is this published? Was this published in LA Times? Was this published in the Canadian newspapers of note? Was this retweeted from blue check marks? Where was this from? China is the most promising. Where was it published? In empowered countries. I don't think Venezuela, particularly, if we had to make a choice, I don't think Venezuela, what we want to do is we want to sell oil. But they took the resources that they had, and they built wealth, and they built their own military, and they fucking threw off the chains, and they stopped the fucking CIA coup in the noughties, and fucking Chavez undid it himself, and now they have their own media channel to say shit like the truth, like China is the most promising hope for the third world. Fidel. This is a Cuban publishing it in a Venezuelan publication. And the only truth that's ever come out of reporting on much of the world's imperialism out of the Empire Files and the Gray Zone, the Telesaur was the one that was giving Abby Martin and Mike Preisner of Eyes Left, actual left, anti-imperialist, actual activists, a goddamn platform. It wasn't any American media, right? It was literally an indigenous people. What is an indigenous people? An indigenous people is a people that is not a European colonizer. So it was an indigenous peoples empowered Venezuelan through economic development, alleviating poverty, giving people houses, giving people education, as Hawaii did, and economic empowerment and mutual cooperation to make themselves economically self-sufficient. So we're self-sufficient in international cooperation, not self-sufficient like a fucking Boots libertarian bullshit, but self-sufficient in the sense that they don't rely on the aid from the West, which is never aid. It's always, it's a photo op for colonizers. But they became sufficient enough in their own economics to make their own channel to publish the truth like this, so that America was forced with the swift international financial mass destruction weapons called the banking system, particularly the New York Fed, which has the ability to, with a push of a button, silence $1 billion worth of money moving across the world. And they stopped Abby Martin and actual journalists from doing journalism in America by cutting off their funding through Telesur. Anyways, so but there's no reason why every indigenous people, including indigenous peoples in America, and internally colonized peoples like black peoples and Chicano peoples, and can't build their own cooperative, non-capitalist base. I mean, it's harder to do it in the imperial metropole, but you can quit, never go back to your corporation, quit your cop job, quit your military job, quit your accounting or your tech or your lawing or your science, technology, engineering, or mathematics job that works with the U.S. military, which is most American corporations. Everything in Silicon Valley, every tech company works with the U.S. military. Quit every U.S. tech company. Make your own cooperative versions of all of these. As fast as you can manage, of course. I mean, don't quit it if you don't. I mean, if you're gonna quit your job and then become homeless, I mean, calculate it, but also how much do you have in savings if you are privileged upper middle class? If you made 6 figures in Silicon Valley, leave San Francisco. It's a shithole. It's never coming back. San Francisco will crumble into dust before any open source accelerationist revolution comes out with Grimes and Elon Musk sitting on top of it. Or fucking the Singularity University genius brain and the fucking Humanity Institute is gonna invent some kind of technology to solve all of the world's problems. I feel like I make this argument all the time, but you will sooner see, again, you will sooner see the entire United States crumble into a fine mist of racist dust and cocaine from all the white people that have been snorting it, not the Mexicans. You will sooner see the entire United States crumble to dust in a revolution. You might as well leave it now. And you can leave it more, you can never fully leave it, but you can stop giving free labor. Stop giving your time and your energy, your labor, your brain cycles, whether that's in coding, physically moving products, lawyering, writing books, writing propaganda, writing movies, writing scripts for Hollywood. You could sooner move your money out of this entire imperial complex and into some kind of cooperative fashion, and that will accelerate the rate at which all these world's peoples are liberated. Because the less people that are working, if every U.S. military man and women, all 1.6 million, were to quit, how is the U.S. going to enforce its ways in Iraq? How is it going to enforce what it needs to enforce? Includes all the weapons makers. How is it, if nobody's making Lockheed Martin bombs and missiles, how are the country that starts with the I and it ends with an L, and the country that rhymes with Listerine, okay, well, it doesn't rhyme, but it's spelled similarly, gonna not get, because I can't say it because there's no information, there's no free speech or free information anywhere in the West. It's a giant matrix of disinformation, and I can't even say certain words, and I can't put them in my stream titles without them getting shadow banned. How are they gonna shoot the missiles into all the Palestinian children if nobody's making the missiles and bombs? If you work even if you're not physically putting the pieces of the missile together, and this is what they do at tech companies, they make it so that they compartmentalize it so 100 different people are working on 100 parts of code, but you're actually working on a giant missile. Just quit every American corporation and every Western corporation and start your own cooperative non-capitalist controlled ones, like Silver Spoon Games, as fast as humanly possible, until we all become transhuman, fully automated luxury space, communist, space chicken, turkey, this corporate if we don't like bodies, because bodies get back pain and fibromyalgia. Until we become like science fiction, the fastest way to do it is just to leave all these corporations and never go back to them. Because if all those people stop working and selling out, all the black programmers start selling out to kill other black people with drones, if all of the brown people stop signing up for the LAPD to go round up all the brown people and all their other migrants in ICE, if all the Hawaiians stop signing up for the U.S. military to go bomb other countries with the military that's occupying us, what do they have? They don't have anything. They got a bunch of bad liars sitting around, verbally circle jerking each other in DC, in Wall Street, in the Pentagon, making up fucking New York Times bestseller nonsense novels about white people solving the world's problems by giving Elon Musk Dogecoin stocks. I don't know what the fuck. So they don't have anything. All the talent is in the the 5 to 6 figure range. Once you get, is it Michael Hudson who said, once you make $1 billion, your IQ drops 30 points. I don't believe in IQ, but it's racist, eugenicist bullshit. But you become less talented. The talent is not in the million and the billionaire class. The talent is all in the middle range, right? And also in the bottom range that's unpaid and the care work, that's all talent too, right? So if everybody at that bottom and the mid range, but the mid range it's not necessarily the more talented. The 50 and the 6, the $200, $300,000 cost of living, GI Bill, free university and healthcare while you're in the military. That deal is to buy off all the people of color and the oppressed peoples so that they go and oppress other peoples like them, right? You're still doing important care work when you're just a mother or a partner or a father or a elder care worker. That's as important as all the other work, or educator, or a server, or farmer, or whatever. I don't care what Grimes said. Grimes is full of shit. Grimes is not as talented as Grimes thinks that Grimes is. The farmers are more talented that pick pineapples for starvation wages in slavery in Maui, and which is a thing, are more talented than Grimes. But the people that make the 6-figure salaries get that money so that they can go be talented for the empire and kill their own people and enslave their own people. So we got to get all those. And if you work for a corporation, if you get a good paying job at a corporation, but even if you're not, if you work for Walmart, if you work for all these Safeway and all these, why does it have to be the Waltons taking all your excess labor value and increasing their billions? Why does it have to be Bezos taking all the excess labor value, moving all of, when you're moving and breaking your back, moving boxes full of Baby Yoda t-shirts and Mandalorian and Funko Pops? Why does it they have to be them? You know, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be them. You can very easily have an international postal system and a national post office that's funded, you know, and then have thousands of cooperatives making and selling all these products through cooperative, non-billionaire, wealth siphoning, union busting fucking corporations, right? There is no reason why Huawei is a cooperative. 98,000 people each collectively own a share of that. But you know why? It's because China is more based in America, and America is... That's the difference between China and America, and Vietnam and America. Vietnam, millions of people in cooperatives. China, one company, 100,000 people in cooperatives. America, cooperatives starting to come, not fast enough, not enough people being crushed. Only reason why there's a lot more people leaving the corporations is because of COVID-19. But there's not a reason why the peoples that are currently calling themselves American can't become less stormtroopery, you know, as fast as possible. And indigenous people, even more so, because the faster you become that, the faster you can get your own telesur and then blast your own media and get your own movies, right? Like Iron, that's the difference between, again, that's the difference between Iron Mask. That's the difference between Iron Mask. This is not Iron Mask. That's not Iron Mask. This is the difference between Iron Mask, which tells the truth about the Asian story, versus Kim's Convenience, which lies about the Asian story, as the Asian actors have said, is they're relying on colonizer money and economics and power to get them their story, which is why they're being left out of the writer's room, they're left out of the decisions room. When you have an Asian when the Chow Collective, and there's the Chinese and Asian collective, cooperative businesses that are making Asian, more than just Chinese restaurants and Chinese exclusion act. That's a problem with Chinese restaurants and Chinese laundromats, but when they have more and more economic empowerment, separate from the United States, which does not care about Asians and wants to make war with Asians, is Asian violence and murder skyrocketing. When the Asians, as part of a network of cooperative left and economically empowered groups, have enough money, they can fund their own Kim's Convenience, and they can make a show what it's actually like to be Chinese in America, which is fucking horrific, right? You know, and anyway, I know this is like a long point, and I've got enough. So I'll fail to have spoken enough about Riddic. Again, the topic I said I was going to talk about, but I did say something about it. I do want to say, play the game. It is really great. It deals with all of these issues. It deals with, I'm going to leave shortly. It deals with prison industrial complex. The main character is a prisoner. The police are depicted as slave catchers and prison guards, and the wardens are capitalist plantation owners who literally run mines under the ground, running in these mines in the ground. I mean, there's giant creatures, but the prisoners are $0 an hour workers working for giant capitalist entities for the profit of a minority of white guys. The Riddic universe is like more based than anything most things that I've ever seen of the scale. So I really recommend checking out Escape from Butcher's Bay. It is free. You can get it for free on Abandonware. It's Abandonware. You get it for free. So I just want to say, also, Fast 9's coming out. So everybody, well, I mean, don't get COVID-19. Be careful. Take the proper precautions, right? But I mean, just like donate some money to Vin Diesel and then watch Fast 9 when it's safe enough to watch it, so that we can get Riddick 4. I think Riddick 4. There's another Riddick being filmed, so I'm looking forward to this. Because, you know, for Juneteenth, don't let America and the liberals and the Democrats and the rest of the fucking Gusano sellouts of every race and every color and every variety of income levels. Don't let them tell you, and the blue check marks tell you, that slavery is over and that's so awesome. It's not over. Slavery is here. I know kids who are doing slavery right now in Arizona. A lot of Hawaiian kids go to Arizona because take them far away, put them in the middle of the desert, far from the ocean, to destroy the Hawaiians. Genocide continues in Hawaii. So slavery is not over. Hawaiians are doing slavery right now. Thai people on Maui are brought in and then work in slave Maui pineapple plantation, where they literally were treating them like slaves. Beating them, throwing them against the wall, physically, sexually harassing them, and threatening them if they spoke out by holding on to their passport. Literally, just holding to their passport and saying, "You don't even count as a human because you're just an illegal. We can dump you in a deep dark hole, you know, if you do anything." And so slavery is alive. In Hawaii, pineapple plantations that still exist. Slave plantations in Hawaii still exist. In the prison labor that the whole entire U.S. is involved in. Every corporation is involved in it. The U.S. military, the White House is built by prison labor. Literal black slaves built for 23 cents an hour. The furniture, White House drawers, President Biden's cabinets, and his nice little chairs to sit on in the Oval Office was built by prison labor. America still has slavery. So don't let them tell you that slavery is over. Slavery is not over. Slavery will never be over as long as we keep having these terrible fucking movies, terrible history, terrible disinformation. And so, that's kind of my, so that's my take on Riddick. So, and on Juneteenth as well. Happy Juneteenth. Give some people of color and particularly black people some money. Anyway, Neofeud is a dystopic cyberpunk adventure game in the vein. However, if you want to support what we do here, Neofeud is a dystopic cyberpunk adventure game in the vein of Blade Runner with an overlay of Game of Thrones-like political intrigue, 1366 by 768 hand-painted stylized visuals. And Neofeud is a game that does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative of myself, Holly Argent, in the illegally occupied Hawaii by the U.S. Empire. If you have a second to leave even a very short review, if you had a chance to play it. Neofeud also deals directly with the prison industrial complex and the police industrial complex. Even in some ways, even more directly, like police shoot marginalized people and, steal their children, as happens to indigenous people and black people and non-white people on a regular basis today. And so if you want to support what we do here, making Neofeud 2, just housing and feeding others with no bosses and no landlords at the Silver Spook Cooperative, do check out Neofeud. Leave a short review if you have a second to leave a short review. If not, don't worry about it. If you are a leftist, don't forget, Neofeud is explored the depths that make up our capitalist reality, and I found the game to be a multi-dimensional representation of Marx's Das Kapital. So anyways, even if you're just like a leftist in general, of whatever shade, and you're like, you want a game that is a cyberpunk satirical Disco Elysium like Disco Elysium with more cyberpunk, directed by Taika Waititi sort of game, Neofeud is that. Neofeud is also available for Mac and Linux on itch.io. It is a game that is you don't have to get DRM if you get it this way. Silver Spook Games is a one-person team. Yeah. Anyways, when it was made, it was mostly me working on the game. However, now it is myself, Holly Argent, and myself, Positive Synergy, another native Hawaiian, and our kids are junior members. We have 5 altogether at the Silver Spook Cooperative. And every Patreon dollar does go to support everything we do. So if you don't play video games, you want to support the education work that we do, we're going to be having a panel later on today. And arranging all of this, getting everyone together does take time. We're doing a panel on indigenous history, how indigenous peoples across the world have shaped their own our history and Western civilization. So don't forget, later on today, I gotta get off. Yeah, later on today, we're gonna be doing this with Tale of Twin Rabbit, an indigenous educator and content creator, very important one. Luna Oy, of course, Vietnamese content creator and educator. Saber, African from the UK, who does a lot on Afrofuturism, cyberpunk, and decolonization from a black person from the UK's perspective, which is its own thing. Myself and Conquest of Dread, who is an indigenous Maori indigenous person from New Zealand, or also known as Aotearoa. That will be today at 7 p.m. Pacific. So all of this does take some time and energy to kind of put it all together. So you can support that as well as the games, Neofeud 2, the sequel to the Neofeud 1, through Patreon, as well as buying the game and just helping us out. Also, thanks a lot to this person. Nowadays, we have almost no solidarity with Asian experiences. Only critics about not being a liberal bourgeois democracy. Yeah. So anyway, you can follow and find more cool comments like that one I believe Latin American, I'm not sure, possibly Brazilian, who is in solidarity with Asians. Latin American communist in solidarity with Asian communists. You can find all that kind of cool stuff on Mastodon. At silverspookgames.octodon.social is the Mastodon, which is my Mastodon account, which is a decentralized, non-capitalist controlled, federated social media platform. So there you go. How can I corporation, de-imperialize, disconnect myself from empowering racialized capitalism, white supremacy, and empire? How can I do that? You can make you don't have to exclusively use a Mastodon account, but make it and at least post a little bit there, and that increases the value of social media cooperative or social media platform that doesn't benefit billionaires like Jack Dorsey, the corporation Twitter that he's behind, and Wall Street and the military industrial complex that pay Twitter and Jack Dorsey millions and millions and billions of dollars. Every tech company is locked into the US empire to manipulate the timeline, to push things up, push things down, particularly indigenous people, black struggle, particularly black left struggle, and call all the indigenous people CCP shills and put Russia state affiliated media on Red Road. So I don't have a Russia state affiliated media tag, you know. Red Road on Mastodon. All these people, they don't get this, right? Breonna Taylor's name wasn't deleted off of Mastodon. So for Juneteenth, support, like, maybe just make an account at a platform that doesn't fucking delete black people off of Twitter. You know? Like Jack Dorsey did to 3,000 accounts who said Breonna Taylor's name. Maybe do that. I don't think about it. You know, just think about it like for 2 seconds or maybe longer. Don't follow Mark Rubin. He's a piece of hot fucking Gusano garbage. Do follow Daniel Dumbro. Who is also a Latin American who is in China and is in support of both of those left movements in both of those places. If you want to follow on the Death Star satellites, you can follow at Silverspook Guy on Twitter while we still have access to them. And you can also follow at Silverspook Guy, which is where we can get personal and political, just my personal opinions on a lot of things. If you want games mostly related stuff like Neofeud 2, Terminus, Cyberstar, all the other games I'm working on when Neofeud 1 goes on sale, that happens on mostly Silverspook Games account, minus the E in silver. You can follow Terminus at Terminus C, which is a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games like Deus Ex 1 and System Shock 2. Terminus Cyberstar is a game that I'm the lead content director on. I basically write the story in the background. And it's a game that is currently being worked on by a handful of folks. If you like Cyberpunk, like Deus Ex games, Cyberpunk 2077, but not a giant mega corporation, and we're not transphobic, and we're not full of bugs. My friend Aaron Victoria is coding, and I know he's gonna do a good job because he gets the job done. I don't know when it's coming out though, because I'm not the producer. It was supposed to come out earlier this year, but we pushed it back a bit because we want to make sure everything is ready to go, unlike Cyberpunk 2077. So anyway, if you want to help us out, you can share this around. You can follow Terminus Cyberstar at Terminus C. You can join the Discord there. All the Patreon supporters, again, when you become a Patreon supporter, thanks to all these people, when you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to the Silverspook Discord and all of the behind the scenes on what we're working on on Neofeud 2. So, and also you get to support Holly, myself, and everyone else and all the work that we do here. Again. And, I just want to say, sometimes I get more intense. I would say I usually get intense at some point in the stream. I want to say, people who are in the United States are not bad people. People that are in Europe are not bad people. Your melanin count does not make you, good or bad or anything like that. It is the culture, it is the politics, it is the ideology, and it is the historical ways that impact the present and the historical accumulations of wealth and realities that impact the present that make these places what they are and who they are, which is why we need to learn history. And so, so I just want to say that. And thanks again to all these people here. And then I can't read them all because there's too many. But thanks to the newest ones, especially Mass Casualty, Roe, Quinn Rust, Brendan Long, Sage Sharp, Christopher Strom, Quinn Londo, Sham, Simbob, J. McBroderick, Sierra Bangs, and Yon Jinx. I'm not sure if I'm saying these names properly, but thanks for the support. If people really want their name said, let me know and I'll go through every name. But I mean, I save a little bit of my voice. I got to do like 2-3 streams today. So, anyways, we will be back. I'm sorry I didn't look at the chat too much today, but it is what it is. Thanks a lot to everybody for watching, and we will be back at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Remember, it's on Luna Oi, where we'll be having a panel on indigenous history from indigenous peoples across the world. So tune into that, and then I'll probably be back for a little bit, maybe after that on Twitch, but I'm not sure. Just maybe chill out towards the end. But the normal Twitch stream at 9 o'clock might be pushed back a bit and shorter because we're doing a 4 o'clock one. Anyway, until next time. Thanks a lot, Alana Montero, and everyone else. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and keep your marriage, policy, be excellent to each other. White supremacy fucking sucks. Fuck the plantation, the police, the U.S. police in particular, Western police, and the U.S. military and all of its UK aircraft carriers. Stop funding those aircraft carriers, and stop pushing out propaganda that funds them.